And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to Fed Reacts. Today, we're going to be covering the Yorkshire Ripper. I'm here with Angie. We got a lot to talk about, man. We got a longer one on this one. Let's get into it. Our special agent with Homeland Security Investigations, okay, guys? HSI.
This is what Fed Reacts covers.
Defendant Jeffrey Williams, an associate of YSL, did commit the felony. So here's what 6ix9ine actually got. Racketeer conspiracy. This attack shifted the whole U.S. government. This guy got arrested for espionage, okay, trading secrets with the Russian John Wayne Gacy, a.k.a. the Killer Clown, okay, one of the most prolific serial killers of all time, killed 33 people. Zodiac Killer is a pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who operated in Northern California. All these serial killers, guys, they really get off on getting attention from the media. Many years, Jeffrey Epstein sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls at his home. It was OJ working together to get Nicole killed. We're gonna go over his past, the gang ties, so that this all makes sense.
And we're back. What's up, guys? Welcome to Fed Reacts. Today, we're going to be covering the Yorkshire Ripper. We got a longer documentary that we're going to be reacting to today, guys. Angie, you want to say what's up to the people real fast?
Hi, people. So finally, this Yorkshire Ripper won the poll. We wanted to do the UK cases because I made a live yesterday, and this and Madeleine McCann were the most voted ones on the live. So that's why, we're diversifying our cases. So we're gonna, make it up for the people from the UK. So we're gonna do this serial killer.
Cool. And also, guys, give me ones in the chat if the audio is good. We should be good. Definitely, I've made some adjustments with everything. But sorry, it took a while. I tried to get everything set up without bills so that I can, figure this out the hard way. So I think we got it. It's a little bit confusing for me here because I got, a audio setup for the show, and then I got an audio setup for the game streaming, which I'll probably do an Overwatch stream for y'all after tonight. I was destroying some kids on McCree earlier. I don't like to call them cats.
They're sending ones in the chat.
Okay, awesome. Glad that it's good. So I guess we'll get right into it, guys. Don't want to take up too much time here. So here he is, guys. Peter Sutcliffe is the Yorkshire Ripper. Not to be confused with the Jack the Ripper, which we did an episode on Jack the Ripper as well, guys. So if you missed that one, please go check it out. It was a really good one, actually. And it still hasn't been solved. He's probably I would say probably one of the most infamous serial killers worldwide.
Killer. Yeah.
I would say him and the Zodiac Killer are by far the most famous. Jack the Ripper and the Zodiac Killer. They never caught either one of them. So even though Case Breakers does think that they found the Zodiac Killer, but I'm still waiting. And then when it does come out, guys, we'll definitely talk about it.
He definitely died.
Oh yeah, he's dead. But they think they know who it is. I forget the guy's name, but I reveal it on that episode. But anyway, Peter William Sutcliffe, guys, born June 2nd, 1946, died November 13th, 2020, so recently, also known as Peter Coonan, was an English serial killer who was convicted of murdering 13 women and attempting to murder 7 others between 1975 and 1980. Guys, what did I tell you about the 70s, man? That was the, golden era for serial killers, man. All the top ones were operating at that time. You got Ted Bundy, the John Wayne Gacy, the clown killer. You got Jeffrey Dahmer, because Jeffrey Dahmer's first kill was actually in 1975. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
You had Samuel Little operating in the 1970s. The Zodiac Killer operated in the 1970s.
The Golden State Killer.
Golden State Killer operated in the 70s.
Killer.
Green River Killer operated in the 70s as well. Who else?
Ellie Warner was in the 90s, right?
Yeah, she was in the 90s. She came 80s, 90s. Who else? I'm trying to think.
The Zodiac Killer, you said?
The who?
Zodiac Killer.
The Zodiac Killer, late 60s and early 70s.
Ed Kemper.
Ed Kemper operated in the 70s. It's crazy, man. All the top serial killers were operating in the 70s. And then on top of that, the Mafia was operating at that time. That was their golden era, was the 1970s. And Griselda Blanco was operating in the 70s.
Yeah.
So
78.
the 70s were a crazy time, guys. Very crazy time. I'd probably say the most prolific criminals, serial killers, mafiosos, etc., all operated in the 1970s.
It was a golden era for
Yeah, if you were a crook, I guess it was a good time.
Yeah, for crime.
The police weren't refined yet. The feds weren't really on point yet. There was no interstate databases. So, and serial killers thrived. And also, people don't talk about this often. One of the things that led to serial killers being so popular, guys, was the emergence of interstate highways.
Oh.
Interstate highways made it a lot easier for them to travel. And also the police weren't refined as well, where they had interstate databases to work together. So if a murder happened in one area and then another murder happened somewhere else, the law enforcement agencies didn't really know how to talk to each other to share information.
Yeah.
He was sentenced to 20 concurrent sentences of life imprisonment, which were converted to a whole life order in 2010. 2 of Sutcliffe's murders took place in Manchester. All of the others were in West Yorkshire. Criminal psychologist David Holmes characterized Sutcliffe as being extremely callous, sexually sadistic serial killer. So we got a documentary here, guys, that we're going to play. I think the audio should be good, guys. Give me ones in the chat once I start playing this. I'm playing it at, this is a longer one, guys, but I'm going to be playing it at 1.5 speed. So let's get into it, man. Shout out to this YouTube channel, by the way, too. I've used a couple of their, we used them for Ed Gein and I think one other, serial killers documentaries.
Yeah, I love this
Shout out
channel.
to these guys. Very good channel.
This is where I base like most of my research in these serial
Make sure
killers.
to like the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Shout out to them, man. So, yeah.
Investigation, so you can hone your detective. It feels like being put into a show. 1975 with his first attack. It feels like being put into a show you can touch and feel. Make your own murder board and organize your clues. So, do you have what it takes to hunt a killer? Go to https:/ for 20% off on Hunt a Killer. The Yorkshire Ripper's 5-year reign of terror came to an end. In the previous...
Give me ones, guys. Too fast for y'all? Okay. I will slow it down to 1.25. Give me, well, if you guys can hear that it's too fast, then that means that you guys can hear it. So, I got y'all.
Previous 5 years, beginning in July 1975 with his first attack, he had killed 13
I'm going to be pausing
women
it to give
and left
commentary
7
here and there.
others for dead. The 7 survivors were told how lucky they were, but with physical, emotional, and psychological scars that would never completely heal, they didn't feel very lucky. Many would even believe that they would have been better off if the man they had known for so long as the Ripper had succeeded in killing them. As the nation celebrated the final triumph of good over evil, the Yorkshire Ripper's family sat stunned. It was incomprehensible to them that the Peter William Sutcliffe that they knew and loved could be responsible for the heinous crimes of the Yorkshire Ripper. Peter William Sutcliffe was the firstborn son of John and Kathleen Sutcliffe. He was born in Bingley, an industrial county of Yorkshire, England, on the 2nd of June, 1946, weighing only 5 pounds, but healthy in every way. As they took him home from the hospital, both parents were confident that their son would grow to be like his father, a burly man who loved to play and watch any type of sport, and an extrovert who loved to drink at the local pub. John looked forward to the day that he and his son would share the manly pleasures of life. But Peter would not grow to be a man's man like his father. He was a quiet, shy boy who much preferred to stay.
And this is very common with some of these serial killers, guys, where some of them actually did come from 2-parent households, but stuff was like kind of messed up. You know, Jeffrey Dahmer came from a 2-parent household, but his mom was a drug addict. John Wayne Gacy, if I'm not mistaken, grew up in a 2-parent household, but his dad never like.
Most of these serial killers
he never
had,
treated him
like,
well.
And also they had like prostitute as mothers. Prostitute and beaten up mothers. So.
Who can you think of? I know Dahmer's mom was a drug addict. Well, whose mom was a prostitute that you could think of? Who's a prostitute that you could think of?
If I'm not mistaken, was it Ed Kemper? No, not Ed Kemper. Ted Bundy?
Nah, his mom was a 304, but I don't think she was a
prostitute?
I don't think
Wasn't
she was a
it
prostitute.
Jeffrey Dahmer? I'm pretty sure there is a bunch of them. Okay.
Someone in the chat will say it, but
indoors with his mother, then join in the rough games of his younger brothers and sisters, choosing to read rather than play sport. Greatly intimidated by his father's aggressive masculinity, he found a haven in his mother, a gentle, loving woman who adored all 6 of her children.
Ed Gein's mom was super religious, actually, guys.
Yeah.
For some of you guys that are saying,
she was the
yeah,
Catholic.
she was super
Catholic.
Yeah, super Catholic. She used to beat the crap out of that boy.
At school, which he always hated, Peter did not attempt to integrate with the other children. He would spend each play hour standing alone in a safe corner, away from the other children, avoiding the rough games from which he, being small and not particularly strong, invariably came out the worse for wear. His father's concern for his son during his primary years led him to visit Peter at the school each afternoon, hoping to encourage his son to join in with the other children, but to no avail. The move to secondary school was no better for Peter. He became the subject of severe bullying, culminating in his truancy from school for 2 weeks before his parents were informed of his absence. He had spent the 2 weeks hiding in the upstairs loft, reading comics and books by torchlight. Although the bullying stopped after the school took action, Peter, who never fought with other boys or chased after the girls, was seen as different, set apart from the rest. In the last years of secondary school, Peter attempted to fit in with the other boys and overcame the stigma of the outcast he had been given in his younger years. He took up bodybuilding and was soon, to his father's great delight, able to beat both of his brothers at arm wrestling. While still showing no signs of interest in girls, he would
Well,
learn to
Charles
play some
Manson.
sports to fit in. But his fear of leaving
yes.
a mark or bringing attention
Charles Manson's mom was yes.
Mm-hmm.
Good one.
to himself would cause him to never excel in any area of his schooling. He left school.
And then who was the other one that their mom had to go to a shelter for women that got pregnant outside of wedlock? There was one of them that was raised in one of those homes. It might have been Ted Bundy.
Wow.
Might have been Bundy. One of them, I remember, their mom had to raise them in one of these homes. They don't exist anymore because it's so goddamn common. But there were homes back in the day for women that had children out of wedlock. And they would like get sent there because obviously they didn't have a man to provide or whatever. And there were some of these homes. It wasn't as common as it is today.
Yeah.
But it might have been Bundy, man.
Henry Lee Lucas too
Okay.
was a
Who's that? We haven't done him yet.
yeah.
All right. There you go, guys. Look, that's Sutcliffe right there. As you can see, not the best looking guy. Pause.
School at the age of 15 with no clear focus on what he wanted to do with his life. Over the next 2 years, Peter would change jobs regularly. He started in the mill where his father worked, but within a few weeks left to begin an engineering.
Oh, someone said Berkowitz. You know what? It might have been Berkowitz.
Yeah,
AKA the
Berkowitz.
son of Sam.
Yeah,
That might have been
because he was
Berkowitz.
adopted, remember? He was adopted, right?
No. I think his mom might have been the one that was in.
Prostitute?
Double check it for me. No. That went to one of these centers.
Apprenticeship.
It was either
which
him
he
or
quit
Bundy.
After only 9 months. His next job was as a laborer in a factory. But again, after only a short time, he quit to work as a gravedigger at the Bingley Cemetery. Peter continued to
Gravedigger. Holy. That makes sense.
be devoted to his mother all through his teen years and would happily run errands for her and spend a great deal of time with her. Things were not so good with his father, who, Peter felt, spent far too much time away from the family home with sport and socializing, an issue that Peter had always resented. For John Sutcliffe, his greatest concerns about his son were
Yeah, he
allayed by
was
the time
adopted.
Peter celebrated his 18th birthday. Although he never did share his father's love of sport, he had taken up bodybuilding and other manly pursuits, including a passion for riding and repairing motorbikes. The only concern was that Peter still showed no interest in girls and had never had a girlfriend. In his 20th year, while with friends at the Royal Standard, a hotel in Manningham Lane, Peter deliberately approached a girl for the first time. Her name was Sonia Surma, the second daughter of Maria and Bohdan Surma, immigrants from Czechoslovakia, now living in Bradford. Polish-born Bohdan, a physical education teacher and university lecturer in Czechoslovakia, was not happy with his daughter's choice at first, but in time, he would come to see Peter as a hardworking man who was careful with money.
Yeah, guys, this thing doesn't have captions. I apologize for that. I was trying to find it, but it does not have captions, guys. 2 chats we got here. One from I. Willis. Angie should start wearing an apron that says Yes Master in every stream from now on. You could call it the main chick uniform.
It's
Thanks.
correction. It's actually just Supreme Leader.
Oh, yeah, Supreme Leader. I'm halfway through a certain documentary you might be familiar with called Europa. It opened my eyes so much I can't look at history the same way anymore. Hey, man. Hey, it's pretty base. Go check it out, guys, if you guys want. H3 tried to, shame us for, looking at alternative history. Haters gonna hate.
And most importantly, who treated his daughter well. Sonia held hopes of becoming a teacher when she met Peter, and although they would not marry for another 8 years, the intention to marry had always been an unspoken expectation for the couple. In the eyes of John and Kathleen Sutcliffe, Peter had grown up to be the ideal son. As far as they could tell, his only flaw was his work record, which was tainted by his habitual lateness.
And guys, you'll see this as well with some of these serial killers. A lot of them have normal lives and have been married before.
Yeah.
Ted Bundy had a serious girlfriend that with a stepdaughter. John Wayne Gacy had a wife. What's his name? Who's God damn it? The original Night Stalker, the Golden State Killer.
The Golden State Killer.
He had a chick.
Yeah.
Who else? The
But he got
Green
married-
River Killer. The
he
Green
got
River
married
Killer.
later on. Oh, that
He,
Green River
he
Killer
had a wife.
He
She had no idea. He had a whole family.
Whole family.
You know what I mean? Like, bruh. So, you know who else? BTK. Dennis
Oh,
Rader
yeah.
had a whole family, and they never caught him. He used to go to church too and everything. Interestingly enough, they caught him through his daughter's DNA when she went
Yeah.
to college. So,
Same
guys,
with the Golden State Killer.
yes. So, yes, caught him with DNA as well, guys. So, shout out to you. Michael bought me. Michaka goes, Myronstein and Angie Berg. I see what you did there, sir. Appreciate that.
What?
Jerome says, Myron, do you foresee another renaissance of serial killers in the next generation with current prevalence of 304 behaviors in OnlyFans? No, bro. I genuinely don't believe that you're going to see as many serial killers as you did back in the 70s and 80s. And the reason for that is because it's just too easy to get caught nowadays.
Yeah.
It's just too easy. Law enforcement is way more sophisticated. There's databases. There's cameras everywhere. I think if someone was smart, they could absolutely pull it off without getting caught for a bit. But it's going to be significantly harder for you to evade capture in today's day and age with how refined law enforcement is, working together, databases. The world is a lot smaller than it used to be in the 1970s, guys. So you'd be able to, go 3 states over and you'd be fine. I mean, Ted Bundy did this. I think he killed women in like 6 or 7 different states. So he was able to evade capture through that. But nowadays, it's not like that. You can see this also with like killers like the Long Island killer. They just recently caught him, the Giglo guy, the Giglo Beach guys, or Gilgo Beach, whatever it's called. They caught him as well, and thanks to sophisticated law enforcement techniques, all the agencies worked together and they found this fucking guy.
Yeah.
So,
like what, 13 years later?
Yes.
No, 20 years later.
Yeah. He started doing his killings like in the
2008,
like 2007, around that time, and they eventually caught him. So
from Craigslist.
Craigslist. They caught him through phone toll analysis, DNA, all that stuff. So yeah. Them boys' number 1 conservative weapon is Mike Flynn. That's from Andrew Graff, okay? And then Chains of Life goes, hey, Maureen, Muhammad Hijab sends you his flowers saying you're a very intelligent man. Also talks good things about your book. Yeah, shout out to guys. I probably shouldn't be. You know what? You guys, we're on Fed Reacts. Shout out to you guys that watch the show. We are going to have Muhammad Hijab on the show, guys. So shout out to him. Shout out to all the Muslim brothers out there. We're definitely going to have him on the podcast. I was actually talking with Sneeko, and he's going to make the intro. So it's going to be great. I'm excited for it. I really am. He's going to be our first Islamic scholar that we've had on the podcast. So it's going to be great. I'm actually really excited for it.
Eventually cost him his job at the cemetery, after which he held several laboring positions. By April 1973, this final problem seemed to be cured when he began his first steady job doing permanent night shift at the Britannia Works of Anderton International. In 1974, the family pressure for Peter and Sonia to marry had finally convinced them that they should do so, even if they hadn't yet saved for a deposit on a house, and Sonia had not been able to complete her teaching degree because of a schizophrenic episode during the second year into her course. With the decision that they would live together with Sonia's parents, they married on the 10th of August, Sonia's 24th birthday. Peter had succeeded in creating a public persona that was exemplary, described by many as hardworking and quiet, a caring and loving husband who kept to himself with no outward signs of the violence and depravity he had hidden deep within him. There were very few who had ever seen the other side of Peter. Gary Jackson, who had worked with Peter at the cemetery, had found his pleasure in playing morbid pranks with the skeletons and the theft of rings from the hands of some of those he buried to be more than a little macabre. His brother-in-law, Robin Holland, would often go out drinking with Peter in the red light districts of Yorkshire, where Peter would often brag about his exploits with the prostitutes in the area. While at home, he would continue to play the part of a family saint who would make grandstands about the immorality of men who two-timed their wives. Eventually, Peter's hypocrisy became too much for Robin, and he refused to go out with them anymore. Trevor Birdsall had become friends with Peter at about the same time as he met Sonia, and would eventually report to police his suspicions that Peter Sutcliffe was the Yorkshire Ripper. Trevor and Peter would spend hundreds of hours over the next few years in pubs and cruising the streets of the red light districts in Peter's succession of cars. Peter seemed to have a liking for prostitutes.
And you're also going to see this trend as well, guys, with a lot of these serial killers. I mean, any of you guys that have watched episodes on serial killers before, they often go after prostitutes. And you guys are wondering, well, why? Well, there's a bunch of reasons why, guys. Number one, a lot of the times they're working alone. A lot of the times they come from home. Well, most of the time no one really cares, right? So if they go missing, no one's going to go looking for them. When the police go ahead and open an investigation to look for them, a lot of times the police don't take the search serious, as awful as that sounds. And the reason for that is because a lot of times, guys, prostitutes are, diaspora type people. Like, they are traveling all over the place. They don't really have a home. They're going from state to state, etc. So, if you're a police department and you have limited resources, who are you going to search for? The missing, child that's 10 years old that went missing, from their bed late at night, a year ago? Or are you going to go searching for a prostitute that you've arrested a bunch of times for solicitation that goes between here and, Denver and a couple other major cities and other states that might not even be close to you? You're always going to focus your resources on people that you can actually locate. And I hate to say it, but you only have a limited amount of resources and time. So that's what it is. So, so prostitutes, a lot of the times, end up being the best victim class to go after, because not only can you get away with it because the police resources typically aren't going to be put towards it, you have perfect cover because the other thing too is that you don't know who these people are a lot of the times. A lot of these serial killers, they kill random people, and the reason why they kill random people is they're able to kind of dehumanify them. That's not a word, but you guys get what I'm saying. Dehumanize them, excuse me. They're able to dehumanize them because they don't know them and they're able to operate that way. And that's just what they do.
And I think that also because prostitutes will be like out in the streets, out in the open, and they usually back in that time a lot of these illicit activities that they will do were illegal, so they wouldn't be, for the eye of the law enforcement. So.
Yeah. And not only that, like a lot of these serial killers feel like they're doing God's work sometimes when they kill these women, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like they were able to morally justify in their head better because, number one, they look at them as like they're criminals, they're whores, they deserve to die. And they also look at it like no one's going to catch me. So they're able to rationalize this stuff in their head, these weirdos. So yeah, dehumanize is the term I was looking for. My bad. Let's get back to it.
Mixed with a fit of strange anger, Trevor remembered vividly a night in Bradford in 1969 when Peter had left him in the car for a few minutes. When he returned, Peter told him that he had tried to hit a prostitute with a brick he had put inside a sock.
God
But
damn.
the sock had fallen apart and the brick had fallen out. Despite his strange behavior, Trevor would remain friends with Peter.
I guess he asked her how much and she said too much. He wasn't happy with the price she gave him.
Until his arrest in 1981. 6 months after his marriage to Sonia, Peter Sutcliffe took the opportunity of a £400 redundancy package. He used the money to acquire his license to drive large trucks. On the 4th of June, 1975, 2 days after his 29th birthday, he passed the HGV test Class 1 and then bought himself a white Ford Corsair with a black roof while keeping his first car, a lime green Ford Capri GT. During the following month, Peter was to tell friends and family of the sad news of Sonia's many miscarriages. Soon after the latest miscarriage, Peter and Sonia were informed that Sonia would not be able to have the children that they both had wanted so much. It was not long after this that Peter made his first reported attack. Anna Patricia Rogulskyj lived in Kaylee. The slim, attractive blonde in her early 30s had been divorced from her Ukrainian husband for 2 years. On the night of July 4th, 1975, she and her boyfriend, Jeff Hughes, whom she expected to marry soon, had had a fight. Still angry, she had left him to go out drinking with friends at a club in Bradford. Her 2 Jamaican friends dropped her outside of her home at 1 a.m., where she expected to find her boyfriend. He wasn't there. Her earlier anger with him soon resurfaced, and she decided to walk across town to his house to finally sort things out. As she fruitlessly banged upon the door, Peter Sutcliffe stood in the shadows, watching. Finally, in frustration, she removed one of her shoes and broke the glass of a downstairs window. As she knelt to put her shoe back on, Peter quickly emerged from the shadows and struck her a savage blow to her head. Anna had not seen or heard anything and was unconscious as he dealt her another 2 blows with his hammer.
And you're going to notice this also with a lot of these serial killers, guys. Like, they don't use guns. Like, these guys aren't, like, here to get a quick, efficient kill. They thrive in causing pain. They thrive in making the person suffer. They thrive in feeling like they're playing God and they control this person's fate, having the person beg, having the person plead with them, having the person, having them slowly suck the life out of the individual. These serial killers, bro, they're like fucking Android 19. You know, just like sitting there squeezing you and shit like that. That's what they like to do. And if you look at a lot of these serial killers, their favorite way to murder a lot of their victims is through strangulation because it's a very personal way to kill someone. So these guys are some sick fucks, but this is how it is, man, when you look at all of them. I think every single serial killer I could think of pretty much did close quarters murder, did close quarter murders, except for like maybe the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. Like he used a gun a few times, but the rest of them, all strangulation, blunt force objects. Yeah.
Yeah, because they like to see the person's eyes to shut off when dying.
Yeah, I mean, Ted Bundy would do something weird where he would strangle them, let them pass out for a bit, and then he'd let them like come back to, and then he would do it again. He would do that over and over and over again. So, and he would stalk his victims as well. Joe Rogan had this guest on one time, and the guy, good storyteller, I forget his name. Someone in the chat is going to probably say it. The guy, he had a friend who had a friend. So the guest knew someone that knew someone who went on a date with Ted Bundy.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So he tells a story. Basically, she goes on this date with this fucking guy, right? And good-looking guy, charming, etc. All the traits that we know that Ted Bundy has, right? And
serial killers in general.
Yeah, and especially Ted Bundy, because remember, Ted Bundy went to law school, guys, so he's a very smart guy. And when she went on a date, she said she felt this very dark energy about him. And he gave her a very weird look. Like when he looked at her, it was kind of like a death stare. Like it was a very hollow, like she couldn't really explain it, but it was like almost like a lifeless stare, right? And she got the heebie-jeebies, and she called her brother. Like she basically said she excused herself to go to the bathroom, and she called her brother, and her brother came and picked her up, right? So her brother goes and picks her up. And so, later on in the night, someone came out. I think it was one of her brothers because they heard like some movement in the bushes. And they came out and they saw the fucking guy, right? The dude that she was with like a ski mask hiding in the bushes. So
How did he know he was him?
Because he picked her up from her house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they found out later on, and when Ted Bundy got caught, she saw it on the news, she was like, holy fuck, I went on a date with this guy.
Yeah.
So she was that close to getting killed.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Crazy shit.
Well,
Crazy shit.
now you don't
I
call
summarized the story, but it's on Joe Rogan's clips, guys. You can see it on the JRE channel. Go ahead, Angie.
Now you don't call your brother. Now you ask for an angel's drink in the bar. That's a technique that now restaurants are like, yeah.
Oh.
You know, Giselle, there is a sign in the bathroom that says, if you feel uncomfortable with your date, just ask for an angel's drink, and the bartender is going to call you an Uber.
Really?
Yeah, that's a technique, and it's been going on for like a few years, at least 2-3 years.
Well, you said at where, Giselle?
Giselle, the restaurant we went with Rampage and Fresh. The restaurant, Maureen.
Oh, yeah, by 11.
Yeah.
Oh, it was in the bathroom?
In the bathroom, there is a sign. That I took a picture of it because I was like, oh, this is the first time that I see it right in the open. Because that thing, they don't want it like be out in the open so no man would know about that. Because then they would know about the technique.
Interesting. Okay, let me tell you guys a story here. So we took, you guys know, obviously Rampage Jackson was here in Miami a couple weeks ago. We took him to a really nice restaurant. It's called Giselle here in Miami. Mm-hmm. It's right above Club 11, okay? And when we were there, we went there on a Wednesday, which I think is their like lit night or whatever. And it was like
Thursday.
Thursday. Okay. Yeah. It was like their 1 year anniversary or whatever. It was fucking packed in there.
Yeah.
So
they had garotas and everything.
Yeah. And actually, now that you mention it, there were a lot. I was looking around. There was a lot of like groups of people, but I saw a lot of people there on dates.
Yeah.
So interesting that you saw that in the bathroom. Okay. Yeah. Is that like within?
But I had known about that before because it had been trending on social media about that angel's drink. Some other restaurants call it differently. But yeah, you can ask to a bartender for that drink, and they call you an Uber or they call somebody that you know so they can come pick you up. So you don't have to deal with the uncomfortable date.
Gotcha.
Or the person.
Holy shit! They probably did that because Ted Bundy.
Yeah. I actually had to do that once in a restaurant that I worked in because there were
someone's being weird.
There were two girls that were with two old men that were just creepy AF.
Oh.
And
you had to do it for them.
Yeah.
Get them out of there.
They were just they were giving me this vibe that you was just trying to get them drunk to take them home. So I was like, yeah, you guys, your Uber is outside. That's the
whole strategy right there.
And you know what's funny is that later on, we saw on the Google page of the restaurant, the reviews, and they mentioned me. Like, the girls were like, oh, my God, this nice lady saved us from the...
Oh, look at Angie saving lives out here.
Yeah, because they were scared. They were trying to leave for like 20 minutes, and the guys wouldn't let them go.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So did you call did you call like an Uber for them, or did you call their...
I was like their cue to leave because I called them an Uber and I was like, guys, your Uber is outside. They never called an Uber or anything. They never said anything because the guys, they were trying to leave, but the old man would let them go.
Okay.
They wouldn't let them go.
So you gave them like a little cue, like, hey, your Uber's here, and they just ran out.
Yeah, they ran out. They were like, thank you so much outside. They were like, oh, thank you so much. We were trying to escape so much. Yeah, it was
damn.
So fun.
All right. The guest on Jerry was comedian Chris DeStefano, and it was his mom that allegedly wanted a date with Ted Bundy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. It was someone that he knew. Appreciate that, Jerome, 1997.
It had to be somebody very old.
Yeah. 100, definitely. Let's get back to it.
Peter paused momentarily to catch his breath as the blood from Anna's wound seeped across the cobblestones. He lifted her skirt and pulled down her underpants. As he returned the hammer to his pocket and took out a knife, his anger, under control until now, found expression with each slashing cut across her stomach. The voice of a concerned neighbor, disturbed by the noise, quickly quelled the frenzied outpouring of Peter's rage. As the neighbor stood peering out into the alley, trying to focus in the poor light, Peter Sutcliffe pulled himself together and spoke calmly as he reassured the man that all was well and to go back inside, which he did. Peter straightened Anna's clothing and was gone as quickly as he had come. After Peter returned home to his sleeping wife to continue his life as usual, Anna was found and rushed to the casualty department of Airedale Hospital. From there, she was transferred to Leeds General Infirmary for an emergency operation that lasted 12 hours. At one point, she was read the last right.
Durag Myron makes a joke, says, plot twist, the Uber driver finishes the job. Oh my God, man.
Miraculously, she survived, but unlike Peter,
Rumpelnut JE says, can you guys cover the PNB rock case? Crazy to think I was across the street 5 minutes before he got shot. Yo, Rumpelnut, I did it already. It is on FedReacts. I did the PNB rock case, man.
you
Go
did?
check it out. Yeah, I covered it already. I covered it like right after he passed away. Rest in peace to him.
her life would never be the same after that night. She returned to her home where she would live alone with her 5 cats, barricaded behind a network of wires and alarms. She's terrified of strangers and rarely goes out. When she does, she walks in the middle of the street, and she's afraid of the shadows and terrified of people approaching her from behind.
Of course.
There's
yes.
no boyfriend now, and no prospects of marriage. The £15,000 she received from the Criminal Compensation Board cannot buy back her life. She wishes that she had died that night. The police were mystified by the attack, which appeared to have no motive. No money was stolen, and it had not been a sexual attack. Her boyfriend and all of her friends had been cleared, apart from a vague description given by the neighbor of a man in his late 20s or early 30s, about 5'8", and wearing a check sports coat. During the next month, while Peter looked for work as a driver, Sonia decided to complete her teacher training and enrolled at the Margaret Macmillan College in Bradford. On Friday the 15th of August, Peter drove his friend, Trevor Birdsall, to Halifax, where they drank in some pubs. It was in one of these pubs that Peter had first seen Mrs. Olive Smelt. 46-year-old Olive had followed her usual Friday night pattern of meeting her girlfriends for a drink in Halifax, while her husband Harry stayed at home with their 15-year-old daughter Julie and 9-year-old son Stephen. 2 men known well by the women gave them all a lift home. Olive was dropped in Boothtown Road, a short walk from her home. At the same time, Peter left Trevor alone in his car. As Olive took a shortcut through an alleyway at 11:45 p.m., Peter walked up behind her and overtook her. The last thing Olive could remember was Peter saying, "Weather's letting us down, isn't it?" before he dealt her a heavy blow to the back of her head.
What a strange thing to say before you attack somebody. Weather's looking kind of odd. Boom. Just like, what the fuck is wrong? Like, yo. With a British accent, too. Like, what the fuck?
Your British accent is so
like, what the hell?
He hit her again as she fell to the ground, then slashed at her back with his knife.
Punch!
He was again prevented from completing his task. A car was quickly approaching, so Peter left Olive and returned to the car where Trevor was waiting. A mere 10 minutes had passed. Olive could not recall how she came to be found some yards down the road, moaning and calling for help. Neighbors took her to their home where they called an ambulance and sent someone to inform Harry. She was initially rushed to Halifax Infirmary and then to Leeds Infirmary, where she spent 10 days. Once again, Peter had left another woman's life in pieces. Olive would continue to suffer from severe depression and memory loss. For months, she would wish that she were dead as the repercussions of the attack took hold of her life. She was continually depressed and took no interest in her life.
Oh, guys, so you guys can hear the sound effects. Okay, I was going to say, bro, because when I hit the sound effect button, it doesn't, I can't hear it. So y'all heard the Captain Falcon punch? All right, give me one to the chat if y'all can hear the Don DeMarcos and everything else like that. Because you can't, no, we can't hear it here, but y'all can hear it? Give me ones. Oh, shit, y'all can hear it. All right, that's lit. Okay, cool. All right.
She lived in fear, especially of men, and would sometimes look at her husband and wonder, hadn't he been a police suspect? Their relationship was permanently altered, and she rarely felt like having sex. Her past enjoyment of
Someone said it's too loud. Hey, man, it is what it is, man.
homemaking and cooking was lost, and she now robotically completed these tasks. Her oldest daughter suffered a nervous breakdown, which doctors were sure was a direct result of the attack. And, for many years, her son would continue to lock the door whenever he left his mother alone in the house. Despite the similarities between the two apparently motiveless attacks upon Anna Rogulskyj and Olive Smelt, police would not link them for some time. It would be 3 years before they would...
Also, just so you guys know, England was in the same place as the United States at this point, right? They also weren't working, with databases and all that other stuff. They were pretty much in the same situation where they were also limited from a technical standpoint when it comes to capturing serial killers, especially when they're attacking random people. Because when you attack random people, most murders, most attacks in general, a lot of times end up where the victim knows their attacker. But whenever you're dealing with serial killers, one of the things they have to their advantage is they're able to pick random victims, and it's very difficult for police to trace back who the victim was attacked by because it's random, besides the fact that maybe they all have brown hair, maybe they have a certain look, or maybe they're all prostitutes, but it's very difficult for police to figure things out. And in the 1970s, man, different world technology-wise.
confirm that the attacker was in fact the Yorkshire Ripper. On the 29th of September 1975, Peter Sutcliffe began working as a delivery driver for a tire company. Exactly 1 month later, he would succeed in killing his first victim, and his reign of terror would begin. Wilhelmina McCann, who preferred to be known as Wilma, was a fiery, Scottish 28-year-old and a mother of 4. Her body was found on the morning of the 30th of October 1975, lying face upwards on a sloping grass embankment of the Prince Philip playing fields off Scott Hall Road, just 100 yards from her council home in nearby Scott Hall Avenue. Wilma had never settled into the mundane life of a wife and mother, much preferring the excitement of the nightlife in many Leeds hotels. On the night of her death, she had left her 4 children in the care of her oldest daughter, 9-year-old Sonia, to go out drinking. She was to drink heavily until closing time at 10:30 p.m. and then make her way home. Along the way, a lorry driver stopped when Wilma flagged him down, but continued on his way when he was greeted with a mixture of incoherent instructions and abuse, leaving her by the side of the road. She was seen at about 1:30 a.m. being picked up by a West Indian man, who was the second last person to see her alive. Soon after 5 a.m., a neighbor found Wilma's 2 oldest daughters huddled together at the bus stop. They were cold, confused, and frightened. Their mummy hadn't come home the night before, and they were waiting in the hope that she would come home by bus. Detective Chief Superintendent Dennis Hoban was in charge of the inquiry. When Professor Guy, the pathologist, completed his report, Hoban learned that Wilma had been struck twice on the back of the head and then stabbed in the neck, chest, and abdomen 15 times. There were traces of semen found on the back of her trousers and underpants. By the time the coroner's verdict of...
So you can see, like, these guys obviously get a great amount of sexual gratification from this as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're fucking whacking it at the scene like weirdos. Matter of fact, that's actually how they caught the BTK killer, because he left his semen at some of the crime scenes, and so did the Golden State Killer as well.
State Killer,
so, you know, they were able to go ahead and use DNA, you know, 30 years, well, for the Golden State Killer, like damn near 40 years after the fact, and for BTK around 30 years after the fact. So, yeah, these guys end up going to jail after this shit.
Murder by person or persons unknown had been handed down. The 150 police officers that Hoban had working on the case had interviewed 7,000 householders and 6,000 lorry drivers.
But in the 1970s, guys, DNA testing wasn't a thing. DNA testing in the United States didn't really start getting used for court purposes, until the 90s and 2000s, guys.
They'd taken hundreds of statements.
They were collected, but you couldn't effectively really test it, and compare it to other samples. What they did test at the time, when they took the semen before, it would allow you to determine blood type before they were able to actually, like, you know, hone in on it with like where it was like 100% match. It at least allowed you to get a blood type, so it would like narrow down the search a bit, but it wouldn't give you, you know, that almost 100% match that we have nowadays. But that's why they collected semen back then in the 70s, is because it would allow you to determine blood type at least.
From anyone with even the remotest connection to Wilma, each one painstakingly checked. But still, they had not even come close to finding her killer. On the 20th of November, 1975,
Kron Putz goes, the last thing you want to hear at a murder scene is, well, there's no murder weapon, but we found semen. Oh, my God, bro. You fucking guys,
26-year-old Joan Harrison's dead body was found in a garage in Preston, Lancashire. She had been hit over the back of the head with the heel of a shoe and then kicked severely until she was dead. Before leaving her, the killer had dragged her to a more secluded part of the garage, where he pulled her trousers back on and pulled her bra down to cover her breasts. Placing the boot he had removed earlier in between her thighs, he then removed her coat and covered her with it. He took her handbag and dumped it in a refuse bin after removing all of its contents. The killer was to leave some clues for the police. The first was a deep bite mark above her breast, which revealed that the killer had a gap between his front teeth. Tests on semen found...
Oh, there we go. Fucking idiot.
Stupid.
So, this is actually how they caught Ted Bundy, guys. Ted Bundy, in his last murder before he went to jail, went on a college campus and attacked a bunch of girls. And he had made it kill in a while, by the way. So I guess he was like thirsty to kill some people, because he had escaped from prison and he hadn't committed a murder in a while. So he ends up in Florida. He goes from, I think it was either Utah or Colorado, escapes from fucking prison, goes cross country, right? And when he's in Florida, when he attacks one of the women, he bites her
in the butt. Yeah, the butt
and
cheek.
they were able, during the course of his trial, they were able to get a forensic orthodontist, right? If I'm saying that right. I think it was a forensic orthodontist. And the guy was able to match the teeth
To the bite.
from Ted Bundy's bite mark.
Bite mark.
And that was actually one of the pieces of evidence that got him convicted, interestingly enough. So, you know, these perverts always end up showing their hand. Mo Easy goes, whose job is it to collect the semen? What the fuck? They ain't tell you that when you become a cop. This guy, bro. A lot of times it's going to be CSI. It won't even be the detectives that do it, guys. It'll be CSI that collects it, and then they go ahead and make a report for the investigating detective.
That goes to a
Then
lab,
both are-
right?
It goes to a lab, yep. CSI will take it and test it and do all that.
vagina and anus showed that the killer was what is known as a secretor, a person whose blood group information is secreted into their body fluids, approximately 80% of the population. The killer's blood group was of the rare B group. Initially, Joan Harrison's murder
Oh,
was...
so you can see in London, in the UK, same thing. They're using it to collect blood sample. They use it to figure out their blood type.
I'm that
was
blood
not linked
type
to Wilma
too.
McCann's, as there were too many differences in the killer's method.
What are you? B what?
B plus.
Is that rare?
I don't know. But they're saying it's rare.
Okay. Hold on. Let's see here.
Joan Harrison's murder was not linked to Wilma McCann's, as there were too many differences in the killer's method. This decision would be altered when police were later to receive several letters from a man claiming to be the Yorkshire Ripper. He mentioned the murder in Preston, leading the police to incorrectly believe that Joan Harrison was also one of the Yorkshire Ripper's victims. In reality, Peter Sutcliffe, the mysterious and elusive Yorkshire Ripper, did not claim another life until January 1976. Emily Monica Jackson, 42, lived with her husband and 3 children in Back Green.
Yeah, I'm O type as well, guys. I forget if I'm O negative or O positive, but I can donate blood to anybody. Is what I am. I know that. I remember my aunt telling me that.
It must be O positive. If you can donate to anybody, it's that, because my brother is that too.
Oh, so you can donate your O as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm not O. My
Oh,
brother.
you're not? Okay,
My
your brother? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, your brother's O something. But yeah, I ain't giving blood to nobody. Fuck that. I hate needles.
In Sherwell, on the outskirts of Morley, west of Leeds. The Jacksons had been having financial problems for some time when Emily decided to begin taking money for sexual favors. Together, Emily and husband Sidney would drive their blue Cromer van into Leeds, where Sidney would wait for his wife in one of the bars, while Emily would use the van to earn the extra money they needed. On the night of Tuesday, the 20th of January, 1976, they parked their van in the car park of the Gaiety and went inside. They had a drink together, then Emily left to see whom she could find outside. Sidney was to wait there until she returned at closing time. When she wasn't there to meet...
We got a good question here from Durag Myron. It says, Myron, serious question here. So since murdering and shit is nowadays impossible to get away with, what do you think these murderers do now? I believe they are all into...
this better shit.
Yeah, or super liberal stuff.
That is true.
Well, here's the thing, dude. Yeah, there's a lot of child exploitation people that do weird shit like that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is, guys, you just don't see serial killers as much. Nowadays, if you're going to see murder, it's gang-related or personal.
Yeah.
You're not going to see a lot of these random, spree killings where these guys are running around killing people of a certain type. It's not common
No,
anymore.
I will say that nowadays it must be more like the Chicago Ripper crew, remember? That they just have something in common and they just gather around.
Wait, those guys were doing it in the 70s too.
Oh, yeah.
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 Chicago Ripper crew was in the 1970s
but they were
as well.
crazy. All these guys with the Ripper in the end are just like insane.
Gotcha. Moeji says, O negative can give to anyone, O plus can receive from anyone. Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
him, he took a taxi home, expecting her to follow in the van shortly after. But she never returned home. Emily's mutilated body was found just after 8 a.m. the following morning, only 800 yards from the Gaiety where her husband had waited for her. Peter Sutcliffe had left Emily lying on her back with her legs apart. She was still wearing her tights and pants, but her bra was pulled up, exposing her breasts. Like Wilma before her, Peter had struck Emily on the head twice with his hammer and then stabbed her lower neck, upper chest, and lower abdomen 51 times with a sharpened Phillips head screwdriver.
Jesus, 51.
Peter's need to vent his anger upon the already dead Emily caused him to make a slip. He stomped on Emily's right thigh, leaving the impression of the heavy-ribbed Wellington boot.
Here we go. So the police are starting to get tangible pieces of evidence now.
It was further identified as a Dunlop Warwick, probably size 7, definitely no larger than an 8. Another print.
Speaking of which, this is one of the pieces of evidence that they had with the Zodiac Killer as well. When the Zodiac Killer committed one of his most famous murders, actually in the movie The Zodiac, at I think Lake Berryessa, what ended up happening was he wore these boots that were given to military personnel from the Navy, and they were able to use that to build a profile on who the Zodiac Killer might have been. So shoe prints are actually very helpful to the police, especially if they're wearing a specific type of shoe that might be issued through the military or that are hard to get. That's actually how they caught the Night Stalker too, guys. I think he had some New Balances that were very rare and came in a specific size. So the detectives were able to trace back the shoes, because they were rare, to a certain shoe shop and the size, and they were able to figure out who bought them, because it was like a 10.5, and there was only like one pair that was purchased. So shoes are a very helpful clue, guys, especially this is pre-DNA days.
Was found in the sand nearby. Hoban knew immediately that the man who had killed Emily Jackson was the same man that had killed Wilma McCann. Sidney Jackson, devastated by the vicious and senseless murder of his wife, believed that the man would kill again and prayed that he would soon be caught. He wept for his wife and sent their children to stay with relatives until he could tell them the terrible news of their mother's death. On March 5, 1976, Peter Sutcliffe was fired from his job with the tire company. Although he had been a good, hard worker, Peter was constantly late for work. His late-night forays into the red light districts of
Yeah, this dude was running around committing murders. That's why he was late.
Yorkshire made it difficult for him to arise early enough for work. It would take him many months of rejection and frustration before he could find work as a lorry driver because of his lack of experience. In the same month, George Oldfield, Assistant Chief Constable at West Yorkshire Police Headquarters in Wakefield, received the first in a series of letters by a person claiming to be the Yorkshire Ripper. Oldfield quickly dismissed the letter, which claimed responsibility for the murder of Joan Hare.
Now, it's crazy. I even have to say this. But this was common with a lot of serial killers, man. A lot of these serial killers are clout chasers, guys. They like to antagonize the police. They like to send letters in.
They will leave stuff.
They'll leave clues in there to try to, really, maybe to throw the police off or to make them feel stupid. We know the Zodiac Killer used to write letters like this. Who else wrote letters?
David Berkowitz, the group.
David Berkowitz wrote letters. Who else? BTK wrote letters. Matter of fact, BTK took a Barbie doll, tied her up, and put it in a cereal box. Get it, serial killer? And I was like, what the fuck, bro?
Very
That's
smart.
yeah.
Very, very smart.
Yeah, he got too cocky. He said that he was gonna make his return. But yeah, a bunch of them would do this, write letters to the press, etc., because they want to go ahead and get some clout, man. Jack the Ripper did this as well.
Oh yeah, he wrote letters.
Jack the Ripper did this. And the reason why, guys, I think they called him the Yorkshire Ripper is because he was mutilating bodies just like Jack the Ripper did.
Pearson, but showed no relation to the Ripper case, as just another one of the many crank letters he,
BTK wrote letters as well. Yep.
Many newspapers had already received. As Marcella Claxton, a 20-year-old prostitute, walked home from a drinking party held by friends in Chapelton around 4 a.m. on the morning of the 9th of May,
Wait, what the hell? Okay.
1976, a large white car pulled up alongside her. She wasn't working that night, but she asked the driver for a lift. Instead of driving her home, he drove her to Soldiers Field, just off Roundhay Road. Peter offered Marcella £5 to get out of the car and undress for sex on the grass, but she refused the offer. As they both got out of the car, Marcella heard a thud as something Peter had dropped hit the ground. He told her it was his wallet. Marcella then went behind a tree to urinate. Peter walked towards her, and the next thing she felt was the blow of Peter's hammer as he brought it down upon the back of her head.
Wow.
Then she felt the second blow. She lay back on the grass, looking at the blood on her hand from where she had touched her head. Peter stood nearby. She remembered vividly that his hair and beard were black and crinkly, and that he was masturbating as he watched her bleeding on the ground.
Oh my
Wow.
He went back to the white car with the red upholstery to get some tissues to clean himself up. When he finished, he threw the tissues on the ground and placed a £5 note in Marcella's hand, warning her not to call the police as he got back into his car. Marcella, her clothes now covered in blood, managed to half-walk, half-crawl to a nearby telephone box where she called for an ambulance. As she sat on the floor and waited for help, she could see Peter drive past many times looking for her, probably to finish the job and rid himself of a vital witness. The gaping wound in the back of her head required 52 stitches and a 7-day stay in the hospital. For months after the attack, she would hate men, barely able to even be in the same room with them.
And this is very common with sex workers where they end up having resentment towards men because I've said it before, man, anytime you're involved in that line of work, you're going to see the most evil side of men, right? It is what it is.
5 years after the attack, she would still be plagued by depression and dizzy spells and be unable to hold down a job. The birth of her son Adrian coincided with Peter Sutcliffe's arrest in 1981, but neither event could ease the ache she had felt since her attack. She too wished she had died. The attacks of the Yorkshire
52 stitches is crazy.
Ripper were by now the main topic of conversation among prostitutes and the patrons of the many pubs in the Leeds area. With little information in the papers about the nature of the murders, the public soon added their own horrific details, which were incredibly similar to the notorious crimes of Jack the Ripper in the previous century. Prostitutes, in an attempt to protect themselves, were seen working in groups, making it very clear to their clients that the details of their car and registrations were being recorded. Increased police activity in the area put further pressure on the already strained relationship between the prostitutes and the officers of the law, creating a formidable barrier to police investigations. The fact that the attacks on Anna Rogulskyj and Olive Smelt had not yet been linked with the other Yorkshire Ripper murders resulted in complacency in the general population, who seemed to view prostitutes as somehow deserving of the Yorkshire Ripper's punishments.
You guys are clowns in the chat. Some people are saying she looks like extra from Michael's Thriller, and some others said that she looks like KSI. You guys ain't shit, man.
Oh my god.
During the summer of 1976, George Oldfield promoted Dennis Hoban to the position of deputy head of the Force CID. While honored at the confidence shown in him by the appointment, he was disappointed that he would have to leave Leeds to work.
Yeah, we got 3,200 of you guys watching the show right now. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We got 2,200 on Rumble and about 1,000 on YouTube. Can you guys do me a favor? Let's get 1,000 likes on YouTube, man. Get the likes up, guys, so we can get the engagement up. Like I said before, we are going to work to try to get y'all 2 episodes, Fed Reacts a week. I'm just waiting on some things to happen on the side, but hopefully it'll be very soon. So just do me a favor, guys, and like the video, man. All you got to do is smash that like button on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Love y'all, ninjas.
From the West Yorkshire Police Headquarters at Wakefield. Nor was he happy to be desk-bound in his new position. Detective Chief Superintendent Jim Hobson replaced Hoban. In October 1976, Peter Sutcliffe came home to his wife with the good news that he had finally found work as a lorry driver. He was now working with T&WH Clark Holdings Limited on the Canal Road Industrial Estate between Shipley and Bradford. It would be 5 months before Peter would kill again. Jim Hobson would head the investigation.
So this happens a lot, guys, with serial killers that have families. They take breaks sporadically when they have families or when they're getting married or a big life event happens. Like BTK, for example, stopped killing for a very long time. He actually didn't kill for like 20 years. And then that's when he made his return and put the little girl in the cereal box, the Barbie doll or whatever, saying that he was going to make his return. And it's interesting because when did he make his return? When his daughter was in college.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to worry about like being, father and being there all the time. So a lot of times when these guys have big life events, they kind of pause the killing for a bit, and then they get back to it later on.
Golden State Killer too.
Yep. Golden State Killer stopped for a while.
When he married and he had his family, he just stopped doing this.
Yep.
And the Green River Killer, I think, when he got married.
He stopped for a while too.
For a while, and then he started again.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Into this attack, like his predecessor Hoban had done 9 months earlier when Marcella Claxton had survived Peter's last attack. On Saturday, February the 5th, 28-year-old Irene Richardson left her rooming house in Copper Street, Chapeltown, at 11:30 p.m. to go to Tiffany's Club. At the time of her attack, Irene would have thought that life couldn't get any worse. Both of her daughters, aged 4 and 5, were with foster parents. She had nowhere decent to live, and due to lack of money, had to walk the streets of Chapeltown to look for customers. When Peter Sutcliffe had finished with Irene, he had left her lying face down in Soldiers Field, placing her coat over her inert and bloodied body. He had given her a massive fracture of the skull with the 3 blows he inflicted with his hammer. One of the blows had been so severe that a circular piece of...
So you guys can see here that there's a trend. This guy likes hammers, which is a little unique. I don't think I could think of any other serial killer that enjoyed using blunt objects. The only one that I could think of is the Night Stalker. But what the Night Stalker did actually was he would go into the home and specifically use something from the house to attack them. The Railroad Killer, too, used to do this. The Railroad Killer, I did an episode on him, guys. It was actually an FBI Files episode. He also would do that where he would use an object in the home to attack the person. It's like they almost got excitement from like finding a weapon in the house and then using that to attack them. Yeah, it's like a game for these assholes. So, but yeah, this dude, someone in the chat said hammer time. Bro, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Y'all niggas are fucking clowns, bro. They said MC Hammer time. What the fuck, bro?
Her skull had penetrated her brain. He had stabbed her.
Now I can't get that song in my head. Can't touch this.
The neck and throat, and 3 more times in the stomach. Savage downward strokes so severe that they had caused her intestines to spill out. When Hobson and the pathologist, Professor Guy, removed her coat, they found that while her bra was still in place, her skirt had been lifted and her tights pulled off the right leg and down. One of the 2 pairs of pants she had been wearing had been removed and stuffed down her tights, while the other pair were still in place. Her calf-length brown boots had been removed and placed neatly over her thighs. A vaginal swab showed the presence of semen, but it was considered to have been from sexual activity before the attack. Near Irene's body, tire tracks were discovered and recorded. They indicated that the killer had used a medium-sized sedan or van. Checks with tire manufacturers established that the vehicle had been fitted with 2 India Autoway tires and a Nemant brand on the rear offside, all of them cross-ply. With the assistance of tire manufacturers, a list of 26 possible car models was drawn up. It seemed that a genuine break had finally been made in the investigation, but Hobson's elation would be short-lived. Police officers, without the benefits of computerization, had moved into local vehicle taxation offices each night to hand-check all the vehicles in West Yorkshire compatible with the list.
And something
The
very
final
interesting
tally
with this
was 100,000
investigation
cars.
Yeah, go ahead.
is that the search for this guy was one of the largest and most expensive manhunts in the British
In England history?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think if I'm going to, I would say, Angie, this guy and
Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper are probably the 2 most famous serial killers in England. In England, or infamous, yeah, two most infamous serial killers in British history. What would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also because this guy interviewed Peter Sutcliffe for 9 times.
Who did?
Before the
police. The police
the
did.
police.
Okay, yep.
And people got really mad in England because they wouldn't catch him. Like it will pass that much time and they wouldn't catch him. So the West Yorkshire police faced heavy and sustained criticism for the failure to catch this guy.
Okay, gotcha.
It was really bad.
Yeah, it took them a while to catch this dude. So
You imagine a whole town being angry
oh yeah,
to the police.
I can imagine.
It's crazy.
They came up with their own version of "fuck the police."
Exactly.
Patricia
The British
Atkinson was
version.
living alone again after her divorce from an Asian immigrant worker, Ray Mitra. After the birth of their 3 daughters, Judy, Jill, and Lisa, in quick succession, Ray would find his marriage to his wayward Western wife to be more than he could handle. Patricia, who preferred to be known as Tina, was happy with the new arrangement as she was now free to drink and dance as often as she pleased. She operated as a prostitute from her small flat at number 9 Oak Avenue in Bradford, where she felt safe from the threat of
Flat guys, by the way, is what British people refer to as apartments. I thought that was weird too, but that's what they refer
Rooms,
to.
yeah.
Well, it's a European thing. It's just a full apartment.
Apartments?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
flats.
the Ripper, who killed his women
Oh, yeah,
outside.
they say flatmates.
being
They say flatmates.
Yeah, they flatmates instead of roommates.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Slim with
Weird.
dark hair and always smartly dressed, she had no shortage of male friends. On Saturday, the 23rd of
Oh
April,
Lord, does you got man? I'm telling y'all, man, these weirdos. Guys, don't be at 304s, man. Just don't be at 3. If you're a woman watching this, don't be at 304, man. Put yourself in a bad situation. Moeezy says, Maureen, you always... hold on, let me read this real fast. It says, Maureen, you should do a series of killings that are still open and not solved. Who's the... I would say there's one serial killer in America still that they haven't caught that has like 80, like an 80 kill count. It's the...
Like an active one? Because the
Active, they
Zodiac,
still
the
haven't caught him.
Zodiac killer is still...
No, but he's dead now. We know that. And I think they I think his name is Gary Post. I'm gonna look it up. But who was I think the Chicago Strangler? I think is who he's still.
yeah.
Google it real quick, Andrew. Double check. But I think he's still outstanding, and they haven't caught him. He's killed like 80 women in the Chicago area. I think that's like the biggest serial killer that still hasn't been caught.
she was seen by the caretaker.
Andrew's gonna fact check
There
it
is
right
one
now.
in Portland.
What's his name?
It's Reason. I don't know what his name is because they
Look
haven't...
it up then. Look it up
They
real
don't know.
quick.
They
Look it
don't
up.
know who he is.
Look it up so we can tell them.
But do you remember
of the
in
building
December
which she
when I
lived,
went there
leaving
and I
her
told
flat
you
on her way to the
Ah, yeah, you did mention someone
he
was on
had
the
killed
loose.
2 women in that week that I was there
Holy shit.
in Portland.
All right, look it up real fast and tell me what his nickname is.
busy red light pubs where she was well known for her heavy drinking. She was seen in a number of the pubs that night, and at 11 p.m., several women working on the street had seen her walking, heading toward Church Street. It was soon after this that Peter Sutcliffe had met the now well-intoxicated Tina. Together, they walked to his car and then drove back to her flat. As they entered through her front door, Peter struck the back of her head with the same ball-peen hammer he had used on all of his previous victims. Before her unconscious body hit the floor, Peter struck her 3 more times. As the blood poured from her wounds, Peter began to remove her overcoat. He then lifted her and carried her to the bedroom and threw her down on the...
Yes, Gary Post was supposed to be the Zodiac killer, but I know the I-70 killer is still out there. Yes, the I-70 killer still hasn't been caught either. Thank you, Doge Shitposter, for that. But we'll see, man. I mean, I don't know if Gary Post is the killer. I'll be honest with you guys. I've studied the Zodiac killer extensively. It's either him or... God damn it, now I'm going to... Okay. The Arthur Lee Allen was the number 1 suspect
For the Zodiac killer.
for the
yeah.
Zodiac killer. Arthur Lee Allen. Moeezy said that's diamond level. You guys are clowns.
There is a... sorry.
They caught the Long Island killer, Bit Van Winkle. What was the name of the guy that, by the way, for in Chicago?
Oh, there is no name for that one. It's just called Chicago Strangler.
The Chicago. Okay,
Yeah.
that's him.
Yeah.
That's him.
And the one
How many kills does he have?
he had
The Chicago Strangler?
His killing spree was from 1999 to 2018, and he had 75 victims.
75. See, I was
Yeah.
close. So 75, and they still didn't catch him.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the person of interest right now in the Portland one that I'm mentioning, he's called Jesse Lee Colhoun.
Jesse Lee Colum?
Yeah,
It's
it's the person suspected for the killings. He
in
killed 4
Portland.
people. Yeah,
The dude that was there when you were there, and he killed 2 women while you were there.
yeah.
Did they have him in
But
custody?
they were white.
Oh, okay.
were-
Was he in custody when you were there, or no?
No, I didn't. No, when I was there, I was researching him, and nobody knew who he was.
Oh, like none of the audience knew.
Nobody.
Someone in
knows.
the chat said, but they're
This
probably
is-
local from Oregon. That's how they
This
know.
is a person suspected in the killings.
Someone said Ted
suspected.
Cruz was a Zodiac killer. Okay, bro. Okay.
He's currently in custody right
He's
now.
in custody right now?
He was arrested in June on parole violations, but I think he didn't have any charges and they released him. But
Okay.
he's the person.
And then
released
2 women
first.
got killed while you were out there.
There was one killed I think in November, and I got there in December.
Yeah, guys, Angie went to Portland. She has family out there. She went there for Christmas. Damn, nigga was killing people in holidays, man?
Yeah.
God damn.
I think so.
Bed. There, he ripped open.
And it's cold as hell. Like, bro, what do you... like, yo, let me put on my North Face coat before I go out here and kill some people. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, what the hell?
Her black leather jacket and blue shirt, pulling up her bra.
Dudes are dedicated to the mission, I guess, man. God damn. Killing people in the fucking wintertime during the holidays in Portland, Oregon?
Yeah,
Where it's cold as shit?
just a bunch of
To
white
reveal her
girls.
breasts. He
Holy.
then pulled her jeans down to her ankles. With a chisel he had removed from his pocket, he began to stab at Tina's exposed stomach. He turned her over and stabbed her in the back, but had not
So you guys can see here that there's a trend. He enjoys stabbing them in the stomach for some odd reason.
Yeah,
So,
and hammering them down
and hitting them with hammers.
in the head.
penetrated
Yeah.
the skin. Then he quickly turned her over again to stab her stomach again, leaving a total of 6 stab wounds. Before he left her, Peter had pulled her jeans back up, and, without realizing it, he left a size 7 done.
Jeremy 920 says, Myron, fuck all the haters. Keep up the great work. You're an inspiration to a lot of young men. W. Angie Gain. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, we get a lot of
Thank
haters,
you.
bro, but it is what it is, man. People are going to say what they're going to say.
Dunlop Warwick Wellington boot print on the bottom bedsheet. As Peter's activities as the notorious Yorkshire Ripper continued to escalate, his wife Sonia was approaching the end of her teacher training. She was confident that she would pass before the coming summer. With the prospect of an increase in their income, Peter and Sonia began to see hope for the fulfillment of their dream to buy their own home. It would not be long before Sonia found the house of her dreams, number 6 Garden Lane, Bradford. Peter was not so sure it was his dream home.
Hold on, let's look this up. Let's have a little bit of fun with this. Number 6 what?
Number 6, what?
Damn it, Angie. You had one job.
What are you trying to
When
put?
Sonia told
I'm trying to get the address for the house.
number 6 Garden
Oh.
Lane, Bradford.
Oh, number 6. Yeah,
Garden
number
Lane.
6, Garden Lane.
There is a guy on YouTube that visited all these places where he killed all these women.
Oh, shit. Is this where he was at? It's changed a lot now.
Yeah, but that's how he looks now, since the 70s.
Yeah, it's probably changed. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, a lot of these houses out in England be like since the 1800s and shit, man.
Yeah.
They don't really, you know. Is this it right here?
Yeah, they must have been killing in the night though, because in broad daylight, I don't.
Yeah,
think
yeah.
so.
He was doing that at night, yeah.
Yeah.
Peter was
That's
not
why his dumbass couldn't wake up for work.
so sure it was his dream home when Sonia told him that the asking
Google says 11 active serial killers in 2024. Thank you, Moeezy.
price was over £15,000. It was a lot of money, and there was no guarantee that Sonia would get work straight away after the summer break.
We got 4,000 people watching on Twitter, 1,100 on YouTube, and another 2,500 on Rumble. Shout out to all you guys. Okay, just so y'all know, Overwatch stream coming after this. The beatings will continue. Just so you guys know, my Overwatch account got suspended.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
He's gonna play with Bills.
But I'm going to play on Bill's account. Let's fucking go, baby. We're going to go ahead and get headband too. Let's go.
He agreed to at least
Bills,
have a
I
look
hope
at
you're
it.
watching this.
They went on a
Oh, yeah, he watching.
Saturday, the 25th of June, 1977. On the same night, Peter went to Chapeltown, supposedly for a drink. Jayne McDonald also went out that Saturday night. Jayne was 16 years old and had recently started her first job in the shoe department of a local supermarket. She was going out dancing and she was happy.
I've got you
She
in
kissed
my
her father goodbye
sights.
before she left their home in Reginald Terrace, Chapeltown.
I hate that sound effect that Angie got terrified. I've got you in my sights. Bro, she literally gasped and jumped in the air. What the hell? Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
For the last time. After the dance, Jayne had gone with friends to buy chips in the city center. As she gossiped with her friends, the last bus home departed without her. At 11:50 p.m., she began walking home with Mark Jones, a young boy she had met earlier that night. He was to organize a lift home for her with his sister, but the sister wasn't home when they got there. Jayne and Mark continued walking together, stopping for a brief kiss and cuddle as far as the Florence Nightingale public house. It was 1:30 when they went their separate ways. At a kiosk near Dock Green Pub near the corner of Beckett Street, Jayne stopped at 1:45 a.m. to call a taxi, but there was no answer.
Demetrio says, dude probably celebrated with a hot chocolate. No working killer.
As she approached the playground, she did
Yo,
not
you guys got no chill in the chat, man.
see Peter Sutcliffe
That's the Rumble chat, by the way, guys.
lurking in the shadow.
And guys, like the video, goddammit. We got, last I checked, we had like 500 likes, but we got that over 1,000 y'all ninjas watching. Like the video, guys. If you're watching this on Rumble, do me a favor, open up a tab, watch it on YouTube as well, and just like the video on YouTube, please.
Waiting to pounce on her as she passed by. 2 children found her body at 9:45 a.m. on Sunday the 26th of June, near a wall inside the playground where Peter had dragged her. She was lying face down, her skirt was disarranged, and her white halter neck top was pulled up to expose her breasts. Peter had struck her 3 times in the...
This is the first girl that we can see that is actually pretty, because the other ones...
Goddamn, Angie. Holy.
back of the head with his hammer, and then stabbed her repeatedly in the chest and once in the back. From the moment Wilfred McDonald, Jayne's father, was told of his daughter's murder by the 2 uniformed police officers who had come to his door that Sunday morning, he lost the will to live. He soon developed nervous asthma and could not work. Instead, he would sit for hours at a time, thinking only of his daughter. It would take 2 years, but he finally died of a broken heart. Assistant Chief Constable George Oldfield was called soon after Jayne's body was found. He would now be overseeing all of the investigations into the Yorkshire Ripper murders and would work in the field with the officers already involved in the case. Newspaper reports the following day, stating that an innocent young woman had been slaughtered, sadly reflected the underlying attitude of police and the public that prostitutes who are murdered are not innocent and somehow deserve whatever punishment is meted out to them.
You see, that's what Myron
Police
said.
were now inundated with information from the public. People who once were interested only in hearing the gory details of the attacks now felt personally affronted and threatened by the man they called the Yorkshire Ripper. Where previously witnesses were reluctant to admit any connection with the murdered prostitutes, people from the surrounding area were readily volunteering information to help the police in their attempts to catch Jayne's killer. Under the direction of Oldfield, police policy regarding the media was to become more open, working cooperatively to ensure that the public was kept informed of the facts that it needed, while suppressing the release of information that would hinder police investigations. Oldfield personally visited members of every level of the community in an attempt to break down barriers to police-public cooperation. Officers involved in the investigation into the brutal murder of Jayne McDonald interviewed residents in 679 homes near the attack, over 13,000 interviews in total, with nearly 4,000 statements taken. Despite all of these efforts, Peter Sutcliffe was able to continue to hide behind his mask of respectability, and the Yorkshire Ripper continued his rampage. Even while the police worked feverishly gathering information about Jayne McDonald's murder, Peter Sutcliffe prepared to kill again. It was Saturday night, the 9th of July 1977, when Peter left Sonia at home in Tanton Crescent with her parents. Driving the white Corsair with a black roof, he headed for Manningham Lane and the red light Lum Lane district of Bradford. Maureen Long, at home in Falsey near Leeds, also made preparations to spend Saturday night in Bradford. She spent the first part of the evening visiting various pubs in Bradford, including one where she met her estranged husband and made arrangements to spend the night at his home in Leicesterdike, Bradford. The rest of the evening was spent at Tiffany's, in the Ballyhigh discotheque, where she danced and drank until just after 2 a.m. As she waited in the long queue at a nearby taxi rank to get a lift to her husband's home, a white car pulled up. The driver, Peter Sutcliffe, offered her a lift. Peter drove Maureen to Bowling Back Lane, where he struck her a massive blow to the back of the head. As she lay on the ground, he stabbed her in the abdomen and back.
You guys can see a trend here. He just keeps doing this over and over and over again with all the women.
The barking of a dog nearby interrupted his frenzied attack, and he left Maureen for dead as he fled the scene. His car was seen leaving the area by a night watchman who was working nearby at 3:27 a.m. He described the car as a Ford Cortina Mark II, white with a black roof. 2 women living in a nearby caravan found Maureen the next morning. They had heard cries for help, went to investigate, and found Maureen Long lying seriously injured on the ground. She should have been dead. The injuries she sustained would have killed most people, but somehow Maureen survived. She was rushed to hospital in Bradford where she underwent emergency surgery. Later, she was transferred to Leeds for major neurological surgery. Oldfield begged doctors for an opportunity to talk with Maureen before they commenced surgery. Maureen tried hard to recall as many details as she could. She remembered leaving Tiffany's and the car that had stopped to give her a lift. The man, as she recalled, was white with a large build, about 35 with light brown shoulder-length hair. He would have been about 6 foot with puffed cheeks and big hands. She wasn't sure about the color of the car. It was white or yellow or blue. She would not remember anything when she came out of surgery. It would be 6 weeks before Maureen could leave the hospital, only to spend a further 3 weeks in a convalescent home before returning home. All she had to live on was her £13 a week Social Security payment. In 1978, she
Holy shit, 13 pounds a week? That's nothing, bro. 13 pounds, real quick. I gotta...
13 pounds. Let's say 1977. Worth today. Okay. Not 3. God damn it.
How much was it?
Calculate. So about $400. So $400 a month. That's nothing, bro. Fuck.
In the Bradford Magistrates Court, charged with stealing from 3 shops in the city centre. She told the court that she was waiting for compensation for the attack, having only received £300. She was fined £75. In April 1979, the Criminal Compensation Board offered her £1,500. She appealed. She was later awarded £1,250 as an interim payment while her case would be held under medical review. To help make ends meet, Maureen sometimes received payments for interviews about the attack. While Maureen recuperated in the hospital, the police investigation began. Detectives set up interview rooms at Tiffany's nightclub in an attempt to glean as much information as they could from the patrons who had been there the week before. The investigation into the attack of Maureen Long would involve 304 officers working full-time. They interviewed 175,000 people, took 12,500 statements, and checked 10,000 vehicles.
Okay, that's wild. Anytime you're doing an effort like this, guys, obviously, as Angie told you guys earlier, this was the biggest and most expensive manhunt in British history. But you're going to need an enormous amount of resources, officers, and keep in mind, there's no computers.
Yeah.
So this is all being done by hand. So there's no cross-referencing and searches with, search bars and all this other stuff on the computer. Everything's got to be done manually, man. So I could only imagine how difficult this was.
And I'm telling you, they interviewed this guy, Peter Sutcliffe.
They did interview him a few times, actually.
9 times.
Before they caught him, yeah.
Before they caught him. And
Yeah.
they didn't even suspect him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's negligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, cops back then kind of sucked.
The night watchman's description of the killer's car as a white Ford Cortina Mark II matched the thousands of cars used by taxi drivers in the area. Police had already contemplated the possibility of the killer being a taxi driver.
Hey, mods, guys. People are going to talk shit in the chat, guys. Let them talk, bro. It's fine. People are going to go in there and talk shit about me or Angie or whatever the fuck it may be. Don't mute them. Don't censor them. Let them say what they want, man. It's fine. Free speech, man. Let them say what they want, guys. Don't ban nobody, please.
Unless they
He
say
would have a good
crazy
knowledge of the-
words.
Yeah, unless they say words that will get us banned. But I think we got a filter. So yeah, guys, don't especially in Rumble, just let them rock. It's fine.
Area, enabling him to know the best haunts for prostitutes and the quiet, secluded areas that he could take them to. They had started questioning taxi drivers after Tina Atkinson's murder, and now they increased that line of investigation. Most were quickly cleared, but one taxi driver, Terry Hackshaw, was not. The police were not completely satisfied with his explanations about his whereabouts on the nights of the murders. He lived alone with his mother in a central location to all of the killings. He was 36 years old, and his appearance fitted the general description of the killer. Terry Hackshaw was placed under surveillance 24 hours a day. Police followed him as he drove his taxi and drank at local pubs. Armed with a search warrant, they entered his home, searching it from top to bottom, including dustbins and his uncle's tool shed. They removed all of his clothing from his home, cut locks from his hair, and took blood samples. They even took carpets from his car. He was taken in for questioning many times. On one such occasion, he was held from 8 o'clock in the evening until 8 o'clock the following morning. Meanwhile, the real killer continued to elude police and drove freely through the streets of Yorkshire, looking for his next quarry. For Peter and Sonia Sutcliffe, life was beginning to improve.
All right, hold on. Let's compare this real quick, guys. If you look here, yeah, that might be the same house, man. Let's see here. Let's go a little bit. Yeah, I think that's the same crib, guys. Yep, that's it. So it never changed, really. Goddamn.
August 18th, 1970.
Where lives in that house? I wonder how much that house is worth. Let's look here. 6 Garden Lane, right? See how much that house is worth now. Does England have a Zillow? Let's see here. British Zillow. Zoopla? Okay. This is what the British people use. Zoopla might. Let's see here. What the fuck? No, nigga, we want this right here. 6 Garden Lane. How much is this house worth, bruh? Come on, man. Oh, maybe not for sale. House prices. There we go. Okay.
What?
6 Garden Lane.
But Yorkshire or
Nah.
Yorkshire is in the city.
No, Bradford.
Bradford. Okay, Bradford.
Okay, there we go. Bradford.
West Yorkshire. Okay.
Okay, this is 4 baths, 1 4-bedroom, 1.
175,000.
Last sold June 2021. Okay, now let's look real fast here. USD to British pounds. 175. That's about 222,000, if I'm not mistaken. Guys, all my British guys in the chat, let me know if this is accurate. If this is like the, if this
How
is
much
the,
is it?
175 pounds is
No,
what it
in
was sold
dollars?
for in June of 2021.
In dollars.
Oh, in dollars, it's 222,000,
That doesn't sound
223,000 basically. 4-bedroom, 1 bath. How do you got 1 bathroom though? What the fuck?
bad. For 4 bedrooms?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Bradford, West Yorkshire. Yeah, I think that's the right address. All my British guys, let me know if this is the best way to find a house in the UK. Zoopla.co.uk. Is that like y'all version of Zillow? So yeah, 1 bathroom is trash. Holy.
77, they had exchanged contracts for the purchase of their lovely new home, and Sonia began her first teaching position at Homefield First School in Bradford 2 weeks later. Then, on Monday the 26th, they moved into their home and Peter bought himself another second-hand Ford Corsair, a red one to replace the white Corsair he had sold on the 31st of August. The following Saturday, the 1st of August 1977, after spending the day working on his new car, he decided to take it out for a test drive. By 9:30 p.m., Jayne Bernadette Jordan was climbing.
Someone said, yeah, I agree with you, chat. Some of y'all are saying that it's kind of low. You know what? Let me look here. Let's put directions, right? Let's say London. Let's see how far away this thing is from London. Ah, that's why it's so cheap, guys. Because in my head, I was like, wait, why is it so goddamn cheap? Yeah, man, it's a fucking, how long? Yeah, it's basically a 4-hour drive, bro.
3 hour. Okay.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour drive. That's why it's okay, that makes more sense. Try to buy a crib like that in London, guys. It's gonna be over $1 million. But yeah, see, someone in the chat saying it's cheap because it's out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. So all my British guys, let me know if I'm accurate there. I think I have the right house here. That sounds about right. Now that we actually like know how far it is from London. So yeah.
into the car with them near her home in Moss Side, Manchester. Jayne, born in Scotland, had moved to Manchester after running away from home at the age of 16. She had met Alan Royal on the day of her arrival and moved in with him. 2 years later, they had their first child, Alan. 2 years after that, their second son, James, was born. Although they were still living together when she was murdered, they had mutually agreed to live separate lives. Earlier on in the evening of the 1st of October, as Jayne poured Alan a glass of lemonade, he told her that he would be going out for the evening. He left her watching television, but she was gone when he returned later. He assumed that she had decided to go out with her girlfriends who were also on the game. Instead, she had taken Peter Sutcliffe to a quiet area of vacant land between allotments and the southern cemetery where she was to have sexual intercourse with him for £5. Before getting out of the car...
£5.
£5? What the fuck? Bruh. Holy. Okay, I gotta do this.
£5.
I gotta do it. Okay.
£5. Sexual intercourse.
Yeah, let's go.
That's an OnlyFans subscription.
That's how they did it back then. £5, and this is what, 1977 now? Probably. Let's just say 77 is fine. Okay. £5, bro?
$3. Can you imagine? No, I'm just
Yo,
kidding.
what the hell?
I'm just kidding.
Okay, $40 today. It's about £40 today, and then you take £40, right?
Doesn't make it any better.
£40 to USD. That's gonna be like $100. Oh no, 50, like okay. Damn, the British pound has went down, man. I remember back in the day when the pound was like almost $2 compared to the US. Yeah, so about $50 US, guys, is roughly what this is. What she was £5 back then in the 70s, about $50 today. That's wild, bro. Holy.
Put the £5 note in a hidden compartment of her handbag. Once out of the car, Peter used his hammer to hit Jayne over the head a total of 13 times. He then hid her body in undergrowth near the fence between the cemetery and the allotments. Peter, now fully recovered from the burst of frenzied anger, calmly drove home across the Pennines to Sonia and his new house and anxiously awaited the headlines that would announce his deed to the world. As he and Sonia planned the housewarming party.
These serial killers get excited, man. A lot of the times they like to watch themselves on the news. They like to read articles about themselves. These dudes always get big boners for themselves, basically. I hate to say it like that, but yeah, you know, literally and figuratively. Committing the murders, then also getting the notoriety for committing the murders.
Party to be held on Sunday evening, Peter began to worry about the £5 note he had given Jayne. It was a brand new note, and it may be possible
This nigga looked like Sinbad.
to trace it back to him. By Sunday, the 9th of October, there still had been no word of the discovery of Jayne's body in the papers.
I think that's not the real photo.
If he was at all troubled by the events of the week before, his party guests could not tell. It was almost midnight when Peter offered to take some of his relatives home in the Red Corsair, while Sonia went to bed. After dropping his guests at their homes, Peter did not immediately return to Garden Lane. Instead, he drove over the Pennines once again. He found Jayne's body exactly as he had left it, but her handbag was missing. As he searched the area, he began frantic at the prospect of the police finding the £5 note. When his frustration and fury were at their peak, he dragged the lifeless and already rotting body away from its hiding place. He tore Jayne's clothes from her body and then stabbed her over and over again. 18 times he stabbed at her breasts, chest, stomach, and vagina. There were fierce slashing swipes, some 8 inches deep. One extended from her left shoulder down to her right knee. When the rage subsided, he thought again of the £5 note and attempted to cut off Jayne's head. He intended to divert police attention by disposing of her head somewhere else. When he realized that it was an impossible task with the tools he had, he gave up and went home. It hadn't occurred to Alan to report Jayne as missing. She had often just taken off from home without notice to visit relatives in Scotland, so he assumed that it was the same this time and that Jayne would turn up in her own good time. It wasn't until he read the report in the paper on the evening of the 10th of October that he became concerned. The report described a young woman who had been found by a neighbor at midday as having shoulder-length auburn hair and listed some of the clothing found. What the police didn't say was that her blackened head was unrecognizable. It had been flattened with the severity of the many blows she had received.
This guy was a sick bastard, man. God damn.
Her belly was gaping open, and putrefaction was evident. At the Manchester CID headquarters, Alan showed Detective Chief Superintendent Jack Ridgway a recent photo of Jayne, but Ridgway couldn't tell if it was the same woman that he had seen earlier that day. Reluctant to subject Alan to the same sight of Jayne's mutilated body, Ridgway suggested that there might be something in the house that would have Jayne's fingerprints on it. Alan immediately remembered the lemonade bottle that was still sitting where Jayne had placed it over a week before. The prints on the bottle were a definite match with those of the corpse. A friend of Jayne's, Anna Holt, had also gone to the police after reading the report in the paper. She insisted on seeing the body and positively identified her as Jayne Jordan. Anna told police that Jayne had only recently decided to give up the game and settle down with Alan and the children to lead a decent home life. Alan was devastated by the tragedy and would lose his job as a chef because he found it
Hey guys, we only got 610 likes on YouTube, man. So do me a favor, man. If you're watching this on X, we got 5,000 watching on X right now, Rumble or YouTube. Open up YouTube tab, guys, and like the video on YouTube, man, because that's how we get out to a new audience. Really appreciate that if y'all could do that for me. And then after this, we got Overwatch stream for y'all ninjas. We gonna kill it.
Possible to concentrate on his work. Thoughts of Jayne and how she died would constantly torment him. Their son Alan, considered a bright boy before his mother's murder, was retarded by the trauma of the ensuing months. By his 5th year, he was still only able to speak a few monosyllabic words. On Saturday the 15th of October, Jayne Jordan's handbag was found only 100 yards from where her body had lain the week before. The money that Alan believed she'd been carrying was missing, but in a hidden pocket at the front of the bag, police found a £5 Bank of England note. The note,
This is very important, guys, this note that they find,
with the serial number AW51121565, was brand new, issued only a couple of days before Jayne was killed.
Oh shit, here we go, baby.
I've got you in my sights.
The Bank of England established that the note was part of a consignment sent to the Shipley and Bingley branches of the Midland Bank, right in the heart of the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah, what's up?
Look at the map right there.
Okay, what about it?
That's where they found all the. And what is this? The feet for?
The what?
21 to 6, 19. All these numbers
Yeah,
are like the
yeah,
feet
that's feet,
far
yeah.
everywhere.
Which is kind of interesting because you would think they would do it in meters because it's England, but I guess normally that would be 1 dash means foot.
Right, but why so far away from the body?
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe she, like, when he was striking her, flew out of her hand.
Oh, but that far away? That's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Ridgway was confident that the Yorkshire Ripper could be found if they could trace the owner of the £5 note.
So they got a £5 note that was recently made new, and they got the serial number for it. And they know that she got that money from this attacker.
With this aim in mind, Ridgway, along with 30 hand-picked Manchester officers, traveled to Bradford and opened a special incident room at the Baildon School. It was quickly established that the note in question had been part of a bundle of £500 and had been the fifth last note in a sequence of 65.
Oh shit, Easy Fella said, we use feet and inches, I prefer meters though. We're not continental Europe who use metric. Oh, okay. All right, I didn't know that. I thought in England they would use, so you guys use the imperial system as well. I thought they would use the metric system.
We use meters in Venezuela.
Yeah. Everyone in the world uses metric. It's like only America, and I guess in this case the UK use inches and feet. But I think they use kilos. Yeah, they definitely use kilos in England though. Yeah, for weight. I think y'all use kilos in England, right, guys? Someone in the chat. Shout out to all my British people watching.
I saw a video of Fresh thinking that.
Oh, we're in Romania? Oh, yeah, that was funny as fuck.
Oh my God, I laughed.
Yeah. Fresh
So
was like,
much.
bro, why is this shit so heavy? It's only 20 pounds. I was like, bro, it's 20 kilos. He was like, oh, no wonder. And I was like, what the like, bro.
It was like weights are heavier in here.
Yeah, he was like, weights are heavier here. Yeah, bro. I was like, what the fuck, man? Yeah, that was actually kind of funny.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was funny as hell, man.
Ridgway's excitement soon abated when he learned that the note had been part of a batch of £17,500, which had been distributed to several firms in the Bradford and Shipley area that employed almost 8,000 men in total.
Oh, Easy Fella said they use stone. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I know. Actually, you know what? Was it Ireland or Scotland? They use stone as well. So that would make sense
Stone?
that England would use stone. Okay.
What
that makes sense.
What is that? Like, how
It's
do
a
you-
whole other thing. Like I'm 10 stone or whatever the fuck. It's weird.
Stone?
I don't even know. Yeah. I know.
It would take Ridgway and his men 3 months to interview 5,000 of those men. One of the firms they had concentrated on was T&WH Clark Holdings Limited in Canal Road, Shipley. Just before Christmas, they interviewed the men that worked there, including Peter William Sutcliffe of Garden Lane, Heaton. There had been nothing about Peter or the other 5,000 men that had seemed suspicious. They had even spoken to his wife Sonia, who had not contradicted in any way Peter's account of the nights they'd asked him about. Even as the police were interviewing those 8,000 men, one of them, the Yorkshire Ripper, struck again. But this time, he would leave his victim to provide a strong identification of him.
It seems here like one stone is about 14 to 17 pounds from what the chat is saying.
Him and his car. It had started on the 14th of December, when Marilyn Moore left a friend's home in Gathorne Terrace near the Gaiety pub at 8 p.m. As she walked along Gipton Avenue towards her home, she noticed a dark-colored car drive slowly toward her. Sure that the driver was a potential client, she began to walk to Leopold Street, where she assumed his car would next appear. Her assumption proved correct when she found his car parked near a junction known as Frankland Place. The driver was leaning against the driver's door. He was about 30, with a stocky build, about 5 foot 6 inches tall with dark, wavy hair and a beard. He was wearing a yellow shirt, a navy blue or black zip-up anorak, and blue jeans, and appeared to be waving to someone in a nearby house. He asked her if she was doing business, and they set a price before she got into the car with him. As he drove her to a vacant lot in Scott Hall Street, about 1.5 miles away, he told her that his name was Dave and that the person he had been waving to was his girlfriend. When they arrived at their destination, Dave suggested that they have sex in the back seat, but when Marilyn got out of the car, she found that the back door was locked. As Dave came behind her to open the door, Marilyn felt a searing, sickening blow on the top of her head. She screamed and attempted to protect her head with her hands. As she fell to the ground, frantically grabbing her attacker's trousers as she fell, she felt further blows before losing consciousness. A dog barked at the sound of Marilyn's screams, and Dave left before he could finish the job. Marilyn remembered hearing him walk back to his
Gan sloppy. As you guys know, he's been gan sloppy now.
car and slam the door, and then she heard the back wheels skid as he hurriedly drove away. Slowly, Marilyn managed to get herself to her feet and stumbled towards a
695 likes, guys. Let's get to 1,000 before the show ends.
telephone. Before she could, a man and woman, noticing the blood running from her head, stopped to help and called an ambulance. She was rushed to Leeds General Infirmary for an emergency operation. She would stay there until just before New Year's Eve, but it would be a long time before she could face returning to Leeds. Back in Leeds again, where she returned to work as a prostitute, she continued to suffer from depression. She still has a hole in the back of her head and scars all over her scalp. There is no doubt in the minds of the investigators that Marilyn was another of the Yorkshire Ripper's victims. This was confirmed when the tire tracks left by his car were found to match those at the site of Irene Richardson's death. Despite this new evidence, the hunt for the Ripper continued without success until the third week of January 1978, when Ridgway pulled his team out of Bradford, knowing that they had probably met the killer and failed to recognize him. By the end of January 1978, police were beginning to wonder whether the Ripper had been scared off by his unsuccessful attack on Marilyn Moore. What they did not know at the time was that he had in fact killed again on the night of January 21st, but the severely mutilated body of Yvonne Pearson would not be found until the end of March. Any hopes police may have had were soon put to an end in the first week in February, when another of the Yorkshire Ripper's victims was found. Helen and Rita Rytka were the twin daughters of an Italian mother and Jamaican father. At the age of 18, when Helen was killed, they lived together in a miserable room next to a motorway flyover in Huddersfield. Although they both worked as prostitutes, they had dreams of a much better life in the future. In the meantime, they would continue to work the streets of the Huddersfield red light district as a pair. To ensure each other's safety, Helen and Rita agreed that they would always take the car number of every client and meet back at an appointed time after 20 minutes, a system which had worked well for them until the snowy night of Tuesday, the 31st of January, 1978. Helen came back to the rendezvous point 5 minutes earlier than Rita at 9:25 p.m.
Guys, and remember, these pictures are probably mugshots, a lot of them, because these women were obviously working ladies of the night, and, that's illegal, so a lot of times they end up getting, put into the system and arrested for it. Common a lot of the times in America as well. When you show these victims, like a lot of those pictures, like when you look at the serial killer's victims, they're mugshots because these are ladies of the night.
The opportunity to make an extra £5 before her sister returned was too good to miss, so Helen got into the car with Peter.
And we know that's roughly $50 in today's dollars, U.S., with the conversion that we did earlier.
Peter Sutcliffe. They drove to Garrett's timber yard near the railway, a common haunt of prostitutes and their clients. Peter convinced her to get into the back seat, and as she did so, Peter struck her with the hammer. He missed and hit the car door instead, alerting Helen to the danger she was in. But before she had a chance to scream, he had hit her again. She immediately crumpled to the ground. It was then that Peter realized they were in full view of two taxi drivers who stood talking nearby. Taking Helen by the hair, he dragged her to the back of the
I've
vehicle.
got you in my
Still alive,
sights.
Helen vainly attempted to protect herself from the hammer as Peter crashed it down onto her head again. Scared that the taxi drivers would discover them,
She's
Peter lay on
gay.
top of Helen and covered her mouth with his hand, then
What
had
is
sex
that?
with her as she lay bleeding. Finally, the taxi drivers left, and Peter got up to find his hammer, which he had dropped. While he searched, Helen attempted to escape. As she ran from him, Peter hit her several more times on the back of the head. Still alive, Helen was dragged to the front of the car where Peter stabbed her through the heart and lungs with a kitchen knife he had hidden in his car. Rita arrived back at the rendezvous point only 5 minutes after Helen had driven to her death. After waiting for some time in the cold,
That's a
she
man.
gave up and went home, assuming that Helen would be waiting for her there. Fear of the police prevented her from reporting Helen's disappearance until Thursday. On Friday, the 3rd of February, a police Alsatian dog located Helen's body where Peter Sutcliffe had left her on the previous Tuesday. On the 10th of March 1978, George Oldfield received another letter in which the writer claimed to be the Yorkshire Ripper. Although
This guy got so much hate, by the way. In the Netflix documentary, this dude was under so much pressure to catch this
Yeah.
guy, and he was constantly getting criticized. Like,
Yeah.
they were shitting on this guy, by the way, guys, when this was all going down. Because, again, women are just turning up mutilated all over the place, and it's like, what's going on?
They
and,
weren't doing
And they were
anything.
spending so much money, so much resources. They were bringing in cops from other jurisdictions to make this happen, and they couldn't do anything. So this dude was getting scrutinized like crazy, man.
it was postmarked as being sent from Sunderland.
There's a very good documentary on this, by the way, guys, on Netflix. Really good. And it gives a little bit more detail than this. But yeah, man, there was an enormous amount of pressure to catch this guy in England back then.
The murder of Joan Harrison was again mentioned, and he promised that the next victim would be old. Uncertainty about the validity of the letter increased when the body of Yvonne Pearson was found on the 26th of March, 1978. If the letter had been from the murderer, why did he not mention Yvonne's murder, which had occurred 2 months earlier, a fact that only the murderer could have known, unless, of course, the Ripper had not killed Yvonne. She had been found on wasteland off Lum Lane in Bradford by a passerby who had noticed her arm sticking out from under an old sofa that had been dumped there long ago. The fact that she'd been bludgeoned with a large blunt instrument,
That's
presumed to
another
have been a
man.
rock, caused police to wonder. This was not the Ripper's usual method, but many of the other characteristics of this murder were similar to the other deaths. Yvonne Pearson had left her 2 girls, aged 2 years and 5 months, in the care of a babysitter on the night of the 21st of January 1978 to see if she could earn some money. Her first stop that night had been the Flying Dutchman pub, where she was seen leaving at 9:30 p.m. Soon after that, Peter Sutcliffe invited her to get into his car to do some business. At the murder site, he hit her repeatedly on the head with a lump hammer. When she was dead, he hid her body under the sofa and jumped on her chest until her ribs had broken. Fear of discovery by
Jeez.
people in the area had cut short his time with Yvonne, and he had not stabbed her. A newspaper, dated 1 month after her death, was placed under her body, leading police to believe that the killer had returned to the scene of the crime. It would be another 2 months before Peter Sutcliffe would kill again. His next victim was 41-year-old Vera Millward, an older woman, just as the letter from the man calling himself the Yorkshire Ripper had promised. Vera Millward, a Spanish-born mother of 7, had been living with her Jamaican boyfriend, Cy Burkett, in their flat at Greenham Avenue, Hulme, at the time of her death. Vera had been very ill after an operation, the third in as many years. She left her home on Tuesday the 16th of May to buy some cigarettes and pick up some painkillers from the nearby hospital. Sometime after purchasing her cigarettes, she met Peter Sutcliffe. On the grounds of the Manchester Royal Infirmary, in a well-lit area, Peter Sutcliffe struck Vera on the head 3 times. Then, undressing her in his usual manner, he slashed her so viciously across her stomach that her intestines spilled out. He also stabbed her repeatedly in the one wound
Sick fucking bastard, man. Holy.
on her back, just below her
What's his infatuation with slashing stomachs? Like, what the fuck?
He
man?
jumped on the other one until her ribs broke
lower left
down.
ribs
That's crazy.
and punctured her right eyelid, bruising her eye. Her screams for help were heard and ignored by a man and his son entering the hospital at the time of her attack. People in this area were well accustomed to such cries in the night. When he had finished with her, Peter dragged her body 12 feet away and dumped her by chain-link fence on a rubbish pile in a corner of a car park. She was found at 8 a.m. the following morning, lying on her right side, face down with her arms folded beneath her and her legs straight. Peter had placed her shoes neatly on her body. Tire tracks were found nearby. They matched those left at the murder site of Irene Richardson and at the site where Marilyn Moore had been attacked. The pathologist's report revealed that there had been traces of mineral oil used in engineering shops in Josephine Whittaker's wounds. It was soon confirmed that the particles were similar to those found on one of the envelopes of the mysterious letters from Sunderland. The letters were seen as credible evidence that could lead toward the capture of the elusive Yorkshire Ripper. On the 16th of April, George Oldfield announced that the now daily press conference would be held at 3:30 p.m. instead of 10:30 a.m. The press was ready for the announcement of an important breakthrough in the case. The police had already sent a team of 4 detectives to Sunderland who had begun visiting firms in the area to gather details of Geordies who had been to Yorkshire on the dates of the attacks. At the press conference, Oldfield announced the Geordie connection and asked firms in the West Yorkshire area to check their records of employees who had been sent to Sunderland during March 1978 and March 1979. 2 months later, when Oldfield received a cassette tape from the writer of the letters, the police would be sent on a wild goose chase as they searched for the killer with a Geordie accent. While police officials debated whether or not to go public with the tape, news of its arrival and contents were leaked to the press. The decision was made, and a press conference, at which the tape was played, was called on Tuesday the 26th of June, 1979. The public response was enormous, with 50,000 calls received by police, putting further strain on the already understaffed West Yorkshire force. The incident room at Sunderland had to be expanded to 100 officers. By the end of the second day, they had received 1,000 calls, and every lead was followed up. And officers were still busy in August when Mr. Stanley Ellis, a Leeds University voice expert, announced that the voice on the tape was from a village in Castletown. A team of police officers was moved to Castletown, where interviews were carried out in every home, but to no avail. The men who were found to match the voice had alibis for the dates of the attacks. Thus, the natural conclusion should have been that the person who wrote the letters and sent the tape was not the Yorkshire Ripper. Instead, the police continued to propagate the belief in the minds of the public that the Yorkshire Ripper had a Geordie accent. The strain of the investigation had taken its toll on George Oldfield, who suffered 3 heart attacks and was hospitalized at the end of July. He would not return to the investigation until the beginning of 1980. By the end of August 1979, many officials were beginning to question the validity of the Geordie connection. The extent of the search for the writer of the letters would have been successful by now if he had been the killer. The discrepancies in the details in the letters and the fact that the surviving victims had not recognized the voice on the tape were all valid reasons, in the minds of more and more of the police investigators, to dismiss the letters and tape altogether. On the night of the 1st of September 1979, Barbara Janine Leach went to the Manville Arms with 5 of her closest friends. Barbara was a student at Bradford University and lived with a group of students in a house in Grove Terrace, just across Great Horton Road from the university. She had decided not to go home to Kettering, where her parents, Beryl and David Leach, lived, so she could continue studying before the beginning of her 3rd year of a Bachelor of Science degree. She had rung her mother earlier that day to wish her father a happy birthday and apologize for not sending him a card. She told her mother that she would be heading home on Monday to spend the week with them. Also at the Manville Arms that night was Peter Sutcliffe. He had seen Barbara from across the other side of the room and had watched her continuously. At closing time, 11 p.m., he left and waited in his car outside. Barbara, along with her 5 friends, had stayed behind to help clean up and have a drink with the landlord, Roy Evans. When they finally left at 12:45 a.m., Peter was watching nearby as the group walked towards Great Horton Road. As they were about to turn left into Grove Terrace, Barbara decided to go for a walk and invited her friend, Paul Smith, to join her. When he declined the offer, she asked him to wait up for her as she didn't have a key. He agreed, and they parted company. As he watched Barbara walk down Great Horton Road alone, Peter started the car and drove down Back Ash Grove, where he parked the car. with hammer and
Doja's saying he stabbed him in the stomach because he hated women and he was trying to stab the uterus. Really? Okay. Tasu said stole her soul for Christmas and stole a semen.
knife in hand. He got out of the car and walked quickly along the alleyway, knowing that Barbara would soon be walking past at the other end. He waited for her in the shadows of Ash Grove, listening to the echo of her boots on the pavement as she walked towards him. As she passed, he sprang, smashing the hammer into her head. It only took the one blow, and she was dead. Quickly, he dragged her lifeless body back into the shadows of the side entrance, toward back Ash Grove. In the yard behind number 13, he dropped her body and tore at her clothing, exposing her breasts, abdomen, and underpants. He stabbed her 8 times, then dragged her body near some rubbish bins and covered her with a piece of old carpet which lay nearby. Paul Smith waited for Barbara for over an hour. Then, assuming that she had decided to join one of the many parties being held all over the area, went to bed. When she hadn't come home the next morning, he rang her parents and the police. A search began that same day, and her body was found that afternoon. Professor Guy, the pathologist who had worked on all of the Yorkshire Ripper cases, believed that the knife used to stab Barbara was the same one used on Josephine Whittaker. With the deaths of 2 victims that were not prostitutes in non-red light areas in 6 months, the West Yorkshire public was now interested in more than just gruesome stories about the Yorkshire Ripper. They wanted action. Why weren't the police doing something to stop this killer who had dared to threaten the lives of decent women? Police investigations were stepped up, and a £1 million publicity campaign was launched involving newspaper advertising and the posting of billboards, reminding the public of the killer with the Geordie accent. By now, few people would have ever suspected
That's probably like $3 million US today.
a bearded lorry driver with a Yorkshire accent living in Bradford, only a 5-minute drive away from police headquarters. On Thursday, the 13th of September, West Yorkshire Police...
Maybe more. Hold on. They said £1 million?
It is said that the Yorkshire Ripper had contracted an STD from a prostitute he
That's
had
£7
seen.
million today. Holy, bro. What the? So that would be 7 million. Let's put, yeah. So let's just say, oh no, my bad. 7 million. Hold on. It was 7.
I think that's 6 zeros, Maureen.
Yeah. Hold on. I'll just copy and paste it. Fuck it. Boom. Come on, man. Give me the conversion. Bruh. What the hell? What is that in US dollars? Okay, let me try this. Enter. Bro. Okay.
Quack, quack, quack.
Fucking lame. Well, it's probably going to be like 8 or 9. Pretty much.
issued a confidential 18-page report to all other forces. It outlined the 16 known Ripper attacks and was intended to help police.
Durag Myron has a quick question. He says, Myron, off-topic question. What you think on the Jake Paul versus Iron Mike fight? Have you seen Mike's training vids? Dude is amazingly fast for a 50-year-old. Yeah. So when it comes to that fight, guys, so part of me is like, okay, this is going to be cool. I'd like to see, obviously Mike Tyson box. But then the other side is like, damn, like if he loses, it's going to definitely hurt his legacy because you're always going to have weirdos out there that say, oh, you lost the fight to Jake Paul, even though he's damn near 60 years old. So, I mean, I'll probably watch it. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be on Netflix, so it's going to be huge. I mean, I'm sure he's making a bunch of money on it. But yeah, I mean, it's a money grab, man, is what it is. I just hope he doesn't lose. That's really it. Because it's really kind of like, there's not really much upside for Mike, to be honest with y'all. Like, there's a lot of upside for Jake. If he loses, people are going to be like, oh, at least he got to fight him. If he wins, it'll be huge for him. I just don't think there's that much upside for Mike besides a bunch of money. And I wish he had made better spending choices when he was in his prime because he wouldn't have to be in this position now where he's, Mike wasn't the best with his money. I don't know if you guys know this, but like, he made really bad decisions financially, between going to jail for a couple years when he was in his prime, spending extravagantly on tigers and all this other shit, buying big-ass houses. 50 Cent actually bought his house in Farmington, Connecticut. And yeah, man, just didn't make smart decisions financially. So I think that's kind of having its consequences now. And yeah, so even if he does win, people are going to be like, oh, well, he should have won. He's Iron Mike, right? So I just don't think that there's that much upside, but I'll definitely be tuning in. Let's go ahead back to it.
And the elimination of suspects, along with detailed descriptions of all the evidence on the case, including the letters and the transcript of the tape. There was a 5-point list to be used for elimination. It stated that any suspects could be eliminated if The man was not born between 1924 and 1959. Only those between 20 and 55 years of age need to be considered. The man was...
And when his trainer, just real quick, like, if his trainer was alive, if Cuss didn't pass away, guys, when he did, Mike, there's no telling how good Mike would have been because Cuss kept him away from a lot of stupid shit. Once he lost Cuss and he lost his the other trainer, I forget his name, the guy that was on Lex Friedman. Once he lost those two, man, it was all downhill from there, man. He started doing drugs, he started partying all the time. He didn't focus on fighting to the same degree. He lost his edge, got a little too cocky. And Teddy Atlas, thank you so much, easy fella, in the Rumble chat. But yeah, man, once he lost that dude, like the downward spiral began. So that's kind of what it is, man. That's why I'm so anti-drug, bro. Like drugs have just ruined so many legendary athletes, bro. Like it's fucking terrible, man. You know, drugs and women, man, but drugs especially, because that's what leads to him doing dumb shit with the chicks. So
obviously a colored person. His shoe size was 9 or over. His blood group was other than B, and most crucially, his accent was dissimilar to a Northern Eastern, or Geordie, accent. The report then described the 3 most common events in all of the known cases as being the use of 2 weapons, a sharp instrument, and an alleged 1 1/4 pound ball-peen hammer, the absence of sexual interference, and the clothing moved to expose breasts and pubic region. Officers in every region were asked to report any similar attacks in their areas, whether fatal or not. Another important change in police procedure involved the use of a new computer program through the police national computer.
Yeah, and Don King robbed him as well. And that's the problem. Like, if he had his Cuss with him, he would have never fucked with Don King in the first place. So, yeah, Don King was able to steal from him because Mike was in a vulnerable position and didn't have the proper guidance at that point, you know?
Entering the makes and the registration numbers of vehicles cited in the areas of the attacks, the computer could chart precise flow patterns of individual vehicles. It was hoped that witness information of a particular car type in the area of an attack could be matched with vehicle registration numbers recorded in the area and then cross-checked against other records. Through this process, they were able to eliminate 200,000 vehicles, including that which was driven by a lorry driver in Heaton who lived and worked in the area. While the use of the computer enabled police to check and cross-check information at enormous speed, saving thousands of man-hours, it also created an avalanche of new information that had to be checked. By the beginning of 1980, the police were faced with millions of facts, 5 million in the case of car registrations alone, and they were now swamped, barely able to keep up with the demand. Since January 1970...
Because they had to do everything manually, guys. Keep in mind, this is all paper. So they didn't have computers. They had to manually look through things. I remember when I was watching a Netflix documentary on this, they had rooms and rooms of files, papers, documents of all this stuff, man. This is the 1970s, guys. No computers. So, or archaic computers. So it's very difficult to keep track of things.
1979, when Jack Ridgway and his men had left Bradford in their search of the owner of the £5 note found in Jean Jordan's handbag, they had returned many times to interview employees of firms like Clark's, where Peter Sutcliffe lived. Peter had been interviewed on some occasions, and his workmates had taken to calling him the Ripper because of the apparent police interest in him. Even as late as 1980, Peter was never considered to be a strong suspect, even though he had a gap in his front teeth, his car had been spotted in red light districts several times, his blood type was of the B group, but not a secretor, he had the right boot size, and his name was on the now dramatically shortened list of 300 possible recipients of the £5 note. Inexplicably, none of the men interviewed at this time were given blood tests, nor were any men placed under surveillance or boot sizes checked. The overwhelming reason why Peter Sutcliffe was not considered a suspect, even after a total of 9 interviews with police, was that he had provided alibis verified by Sonia, and because he did not have a
And you got on a point. 9 interviews, man. Wild.
Geordie accent. A frightening indication of how greatly assumptions can prejudice an investigation such as this, limiting the outlook of the investigating officers to the point that they can miss vital clues. In April 1979, Peter Sutcliffe had admitted to his workmates that he was having an affair with a young woman in a village near Glasgow, taking them all completely by surprise. He was the last person they would have ever expected to fool around. He had always talked of his marriage to Sonia in happy terms and never talked about women sexually at all. He had met Teresa Douglas at the Crown Bar in Holytown, 12 miles from Glasgow, when he made a delivery to the nearby General Motors plant. He returned regularly to the village and quickly won the hearts of Teresa and her family. Known to them as Peter Logan from Yorkshire, they considered him to be one of the nicest men they had ever met. He told the family that he lived alone in a large house in Yorkshire, had been married but was now divorced. He spent many hours talking with Teresa and had at one time admitted to her that he had a potency problem and could not have children. He wrote romantic letters to Teresa and gave her his father's address so Sonia would not find out. He had made such a good impression on Teresa and her family that they all laughed when he told them that he was the Yorkshire Ripper after Teresa's brother William said his eyes looked evil.
Oh, man.
In April 1980, a year since he had met Teresa, Peter Sutcliffe was faced with the prospect of losing his license and his job. There would be no more visits to Glasgow to see his girlfriend, and no more nights cruising the streets of Yorkshire looking for prey. He had been out drinking and had decided while on his way home to make a detour through Manningham, a careless move considering the amount he had had to drink. Police, who noticed him driving erratically, stopped him. He was breathalyzed and then arrested. Soon he would have to go to court and would probably lose his license. He was nervous for a far more important reason than this. What if the arresting police were to find that he had been interviewed many times in the Yorkshire Ripper investigations? Would he be revealed as the killer, wanted in what had become known as the criminal investigation of the century?
In England, they call it drink drive, which I always thought was funny.
All because of a lousy drunk driving charge? It wouldn't happen this time. There were no cross-checks done, and he was soon free to go home. If the prospect of losing his license bothered him, he didn't show it. He told workmates that he and Sonia planned to move to the country and open a pottery business. They would use the proceeds from the sale of their house to finance the project, as Sonia was a talented potter, and they could make a decent living. Sonia, although concerned about the drop in income, looked forward to
Someone said nose very strong. Hold on one sec.
What?
Hold on, I gotta check something. You ninjas already know what this is. Hold on. Gotta look at that early life real quick. Let's see. Okay, nope, guys, it's not what y'all thought. All right, back to the.
her husband home with
I just say, hey, we had
It
a
had been
double
lonely
check,
life
man.
with Peter working late
Jeez.
and spending
We had a
regular
double
nights
check.
at pubs with his friends. As Peter waited for his impending court appearance, due in January 1981, he attacked 4 women, killing 2 of them. His first attack occurred in the respectable suburb of Farsley, Leeds. His 47-year-old victim, Marguerite Walls, was a civil servant who worked at the Department of Education and Science at Farsley. She worked late on the night of the 20th of August 1980, as she had wanted to clear her desk before she started her vacation the next day. She left her office building at 10:30 p.m. to begin the short walk home, taking the longest but safest route along well-lit streets. In New Street, as she walked past the entrance to a local magistrate's house, Peter Sutcliffe jumped out from behind the fence where he had waited for her and hit her on the head with his hammer.
God damn, nigga did it in the daylight, in the lighted area.
Marguerite did not fall to the ground as Peter expected her to. Instead, she began to scream, and a second blow to the head still did not stop her screaming as she held her
That will to live, baby.
now bleeding head. To stop her screaming, he grabbed her by the neck and strangled her. As he did so, he dragged her into the driveway and through the overgrown bushes of the property called Claremont. By the time he reached the garage deep in the garden, Marguerite was dead. He ripped at her clothes, tearing them from her and scattering them around the garden. His anger and frustration at his failure to bring his knife rose with him and could not be quelled as he rained blows on her body with his hammer. Before leaving her, he covered her body with leaves that had been left in a pile nearby.
Go ahead,
So
Andy.
as I was saying before, it was said that the Yorkshire Ripper had contracted an STD from a prostitute he had seen, and that's why it inspired his killing spree and just enraged him
So he got
towards women.
Nigga got the clap and decided to clap back.
Oh, you guys call it the clap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo,
And that's
what
why
the hell?
That's why he had like an extreme hatred for
Hookers?
prostitutes.
Oh wow, because he got the clap. Wow.
And it was from a prostitute that ripped him off from money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, shout out to Edgy getting the lore. Wow.
As he left the garden, he checked that the street was quiet before stepping out from the darkness. 15 minutes later, he was safely home. When Marguerite was found the next morning, only 400 yards from her home, it was soon determined that, although she'd been bludgeoned with a hammer, her strangulation ruled her out as a victim of the notorious Yorkshire Ripper. Headingly,
Guys, 770 likes, man. Do me a favor. Let's get up to 1,000, guys. Just hit that like button,
Wait,
man. It's not hard.
What's the clap like? Is it like
Basically, it's
gonorrhea?
like crabs or... It's like, I mean, when I was growing up and they said the clap, they pretty much were referring to any type of STD or STI.
okay? So it's any STD.
Yeah,
okay.
but like some people, you know, depending on where you're at, some people mean it for, what's it called?
gonorrhea.
No,
syphilis?
I think crabs. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong there.
What's
But
crabs?
home of one of the world's best cricket fields where World Series Test cricket matches are played, was not the type of town anyone would have expected the Yorkshire Ripper to strike. There were no red light districts. It was a suburb where students, teachers, and media people chose to live for its cosmopolitan atmosphere. But it was here that Peter Sutcliffe attacked Dr. Apadya Bandera, visiting Leeds from her native Singapore as part of a World Health Organization scholarship. It was the 24th of September when Dr. Bandera made the long walk home after visiting friends in Headingley. As she walked past the Kentucky Fried
Okay, some people are saying chlamydia, which that can make sense. Chlamydia, clap, okay.
Chicken shop, she noticed a man inside. He was staring at her. She walked on past North Lane and then turned right onto St. Michael's Lane. As she turned into Chapel Lane, an alley that cuts through to Cardigan Road, she was hurled to the ground. Peter Sutcliffe slammed his hammer into her head, rendering her unconscious. He held her around the neck with a ligature to prevent her escape. Apadya Bandera lay bleeding on the ground as Peter picked up her shoes and handbag and took them several yards away. Before he could resume his attack, he heard footsteps and fled. The footsteps belonged to Mrs. Valerie Nicholas, whose house backed onto the laneway. She had heard noises at 10:30 p.m. and had gone out to investigate. The police in Headingley did not believe that the Yorkshire Ripper had attacked Dr. Apadya Bandera, even though she described her attacker as having black hair, a full beard, and a mustache. Dr. Bandera returned to Singapore to recover. Peter Sutcliffe's next attack, on the 5th of January 1980, in Huddersfield, was also credited to an unknown attacker. Teresa Sykes, a 16-year-old who lived with her boyfriend and their 3-month-old son, had been walking home across grassland not far from her home when Peter rained 3 hammer blows to her head. He had followed her from the Minstrel pub where she had dropped in to see her father, the owner, before he struck her from behind, with one of the blows so severe that it went through her skull. Teresa screamed as Peter struck her. Her boyfriend, Jimmy Fury, watched in horror from their lounge room window. Within seconds, he was running toward Teresa and Peter. When Peter saw Jimmy, he ran back into the darkness of the night. Teresa miraculously survived the brutal attack, but
Real quick, Juice Crew goes, I'm currently looking for a duplex in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My loan specialist advised a conventional financing loan instead of FHA. What's your thoughts, Myron? Just wondering. I mean, she probably advised that based on how much you earn and how much you have to put down. But, hey, if you could get away with putting down less, bro, and you're going to live in it, your first home, hey, do it, bro.
she was never the same again. After spending several weeks in the neurosurgical unit at Pindersfield Hospital in
Shout out to our boy Jill Bulls in the chat, Johnny Billions.
Wakefield, Teresa returned home.
He in the Rumble chat for obvious reasons, not on the YouTube chat.
Early in 1981, she left Jimmy and returned to live with her parents. Teresa was now afraid of men, and, despite their plans to marry, she was even afraid of Jimmy. Her father, who always believed that the Yorkshire Ripper had been responsible for his daughter's attack, said that since the attack, her whole personality had changed. Where she was once a happy girl, she was now quick to flare up in anger over the smallest thing. Peter Sutcliffe had left his mark on yet another family. On the night of November 17th, 1980, Sonia resigned herself to yet another night alone watching television. Peter had called to tell her that he was still in Gloucester, making a delivery, and would not be home until late. What she would not find out until much later was that Peter was not working at all. He had clocked off from Clark's at 7:03 p.m. and headed for Headingley, where he had spent another evening only a couple of weeks earlier. He again ate at the Kentucky Fried Chicken shop. As he stood looking out of the window at 9:23 p.m.
Nigga Ian KFC and trying to plot his next murder, man. What the fuck? The fuel of champions. Guys, do me a favor. We're at almost 800 likes, man. Let's get to 1,000 before the documentary ends. Like the video. I'm going to give y'all an Overwatch stream after this.
Jacqueline Hill alighted from the number 1 bus at the stop opposite the Arndale Shopping Arcade. She was returning home after attending a seminar on the probation service in Cookridge Street, Leeds. Jacqueline was a student at the university who had hoped to join the probation service when she graduated the following summer. Peter Sutcliffe began to follow Jacqueline after she passed the Kentucky Fried Chicken shop. He was behind her as she entered the dimly lit Alma Road toward the Lupton Flats where she had recently moved. Her mother had been concerned about her living alone on the outskirts of town because of the Yorkshire Ripper attacks. So Jacqueline had decided to move to the all-girl flats in Lupton Court, which was part of a complex of university residences behind the Arndale Shopping Centre. Jacqueline was only 100 yards from her home when Peter Sutcliffe struck her on the back of the head. He dragged the lifeless body of Jacqueline Hill 14 yards into some vacant land just behind the Arndale Shop's car park. Protected from view by trees and bushes, Peter stabbed her repeatedly. He stabbed her in the eye that had stared up at him accusingly as he tore at her clothes and slashed her naked body. When he had finished, he left her and headed for home. He forgot that Jacqueline's handbag and glasses still lay on the pavement in Alma Road where she had dropped them. Only a short time after the attack, Amir
Get sloppy, man.
Hussein, an Iranian student, found the bag as he walked home to Lupton Court. He took it home with him and showed it to his 5 flatmates, one of whom was an ex-chief inspector with the Hong Kong police, Tony Gosden. Tony became alarmed when he saw that nothing had been stolen from the bag and noticed fresh blood spots on the outside of it. At 11:30 p.m., one of the students called the police, but it was some time before the 2 investigating officers arrived at the flat. It was only at the insistence of Mr. Hussein that the police finally agreed to search the area where he found the bag. The brief search by torchlight did not uncover Jacqueline's body, and the police left. A worker at the Arndale shops discovered Jacqueline the next morning at 10:10 a.m. She was lying less than 30 yards from where the police had searched the previous night. Initially, police denied that the Yorkshire Ripper had struck again until Professor David Gee announced his findings. The Ripper had struck again for what the police wrongly believed to be the first time in 14 months. The attack was widely publicized, with police requesting the assistance of anyone who had been in the area that night. They were especially interested in talking to the owner of a dark, square-shaped car which had been seen reversing hurriedly down one-way Alma Road. The driver, understandably, did not come forward. With Jacqueline's murder, the real threat of the Yorkshire Ripper was finally brought home to Britain's middle class. No longer was he just killing prostitutes in the seedy parts of town. So-called innocent women were now acutely aware of the danger to themselves, a danger that prostitutes had been living with for nearly 5 years. The feminists of Britain, who had previously complained about the police and media referring to
Yeah, this definitely united the feminists back then, guys. There was a feminist movement like kind of pushing, but this guy, the Yorkshire Ripper, definitely united the feminists, man. So y'all can blame him.
prostitute victims as innocent,
Y'all can blame him for the feminism in the UK, bruh.
were suddenly angry at the death of one of their own.
Fucking dummy.
They took to the streets in a violent protest against their loss of the right to walk their streets safely. The police were inundated with information from the public. Police in Leeds received 8,000 letters, 7,000 of which were anonymous. Most named suspects. One of those unsigned letters was from Trevor Birdsall. In it, he named Peter Sutcliffe, a lorry driver from Bradford. When police still did not question Peter 2 weeks later, Trevor entered the Bradford Police Headquarters, where he repeated his allegations to the constable at the reception desk. The report was fed into the system, and Peter Sutcliffe continued to walk free. Trevor had been suspicious of Peter for some time before he went to the police, even as far back as Olive Smelt's attack. But Peter was his friend whom he didn't think was capable of killing. The police insisted that the Yorkshire Ripper was from Sunderland and spoke with a Geordie accent, which had allayed Trevor's suspicions for a long time. When Trevor heard nothing more from the police, he assumed that they had followed up with Peter, and he'd been wrong. The task force responsible for the investigation into the Yorkshire Ripper murders was not aware of Trevor Birdsall's letter or his report. They had long been buried under the mountain of information that had been accumulated over the past 5 years. Since Jacqueline Hill's attack, George Oldfield was no longer in charge of the investigation. Jim Hobson had replaced him. Hobson delivered a full-page message to the force in the December issue of the West Yorkshire Police newspaper. In this message, he asked that all police officers work toward the arrest of the Yorkshire Ripper, committing them to a plan of daily action towards such an outcome. His statement that, although the Yorkshire Ripper probably had a Geordie accent, police should not eliminate a possible suspect on those grounds, was to prove a vital influence in the arrest of Peter Sutcliffe in January 1981. Also in mid-December, Peter Sutcliffe made a trip to Sheffield, an area he had not before visited during his work as a long-distance lorry driver. He had gone to the remote depot on the moor north of Sheffield to make a delivery. It should have been a short visit, but the Christmas rush had caused a backlog, and Peter had spent most of the day there. The depot manager remembered him well because, unlike most of the lorry drivers he knew, Peter had been softly spoken and well-mannered. He did not swear or cuss when told of the delays. He merely passed the time chatting to some of the workers in the busy factory. It would be remembered later that he had asked about an area of vacant land close to
He was too tired from running around at night killing people.
Sheffield, which could be clearly seen from the heights of the depot. Peter noted how quiet it was in Sheffield. Peter had been so impressed by Sheffield that he returned there again 2 weeks later, on Friday the 2nd of January 1981. But this time, he was not driving his lorry, and the delivery he intended to make was with his hammer on some woman's head. He left home for the last time at 4 p.m. that afternoon. 24-year-old Olivia Reavers had left her 2 children, Louise, 5, and DeRoy, 3, at home at 6 o'clock to meet up with her girlfriend, Denise Hall, 19, to earn some money from passing punters in Sheffield's Red Light District. It was only 9 p.m., only moments after the 2 young women had started patrolling along Warncliffe Road, when Denise met her first potential client. He was driving a brown Rover 3500 and had pulled up to the curb, but there had been something about his eyes that had disturbed her. Despite his good looks, with a neatly trimmed beard and dark wavy hair, he had frightened her, so she declined his offer of £10. An hour later, the same Rover pulled up to the curb again. When Olivia looked into Peter's eyes, she did not see what her friend Denise saw. Taking him up on his offer of £10, Olivia climbed into the car. They drove a short distance to Melbourne Avenue and parked in the driveway of the British Iron and Steel Producers Association headquarters. Olivia had often brought her customers up here where it was quiet and isolated, perfect for business. Peter Sutcliffe had been unable to become aroused, despite Olivia's many attempts, so they had sat and talked for a while, mostly about Peter. In his pocket were his ball-peen hammer, a piece of rope, and a knife. He was just waiting for an opportunity to get the woman outside. While he waited, Sergeant Robert Ring and Constable Robert Hines were driving along Melbourne Road as part of their general patrol. When they saw the dark Rover parked in the driveway, they had a pretty good idea why. They pulled in behind the Rover and questioned the couple sitting in the car. He said his name was Peter Williams. The dusky woman said she was his girlfriend. Luckily for Olivia, Ring remembered her face, certain that she was a convicted prostitute with a suspended sentence. He told her to get into the police car. Peter Williams told them he needed to go to the toilet and walked further along the dark driveway. Near the entrance to the building, there was an oil storage tank. It was behind this tank, well out of view of the policeman,
You just saved this bimbo's life.
that Peter placed his hammer and knife. He hoped they hadn't heard the sound they had made as he placed them on the ground near the wall. As Peter made his way back to his car, Ring and Hides had called into the station for a check on Peter's car registration number. Within seconds, the operator at the end of the line had got the information they were looking for through a direct link to the National Police computer at Hendon. The registration number on the brown Rover parked in front of them belonged to a Skoda. Both officers got out of the car and checked the plates on Peter's car, which were held on with black tape. When they checked, they learned the license number was FHY 400K. Peter confirmed this and admitted that his real name was Peter William Sutcliffe, and he lived at Garden Lane, Heaton, Bradford. He had lied because he didn't want his wife to find out that he'd been with a prostitute. Back at the police station in Hamerton Road, Olivia and Peter were placed in separate interview rooms. Peter had told them that he had stolen the plates from
Chick has no clue who she was in the car with.
a car in a scrapyard in Cooper Bridge, which meant that Peter would have to be transferred to another jurisdiction just as soon as they found out where Cooper Bridge was. After many calls, they found that Cooper Bridge fell under the jurisdiction of Dewsbury Police Headquarters. They were told an officer would be there in the morning at 6 a.m. when Ring and Hides finished their shift. Sonia was called and told that her husband wouldn't be home that night, and Peter was placed in a cell to sleep the night. Before retiring, Peter asked permission to go to the toilet. While he was there, he placed a second knife in the cistern. As the three officers from West Yorkshire drove toward Sheffield, an officer from the Dewsbury station rang the incident room in Millgarth, the base for the Yorkshire Ripper inquiry. It was a routine call made because of a recent directive from Hobson to all West Yorkshire police that any man found with prostitutes in suspicious circumstances was to be reported to the task force. At 8:55, Peter Sutcliffe arrived at Dewsbury Police Station with the West Yorkshire Police, where he was transferred into the station's interview room. Just after 9 a.m., Sonia called and was told that her husband was being interviewed about the theft of car number plates. In the interview room, Peter Sutcliffe chatted with officers about his work as a lorry driver and his love of cars. They noted that he had dark, frizzy hair, a beard, and a gap between his teeth. The officers were familiar with the 5 points of reference for the elimination of suspects in the Yorkshire Ripper case, but were not fazed by the lack of a Geordie accent. Peter Sutcliffe lived in Bradford in the heart of Ripper country and had told them that he had driven to Sunderland many times in his work as a lorry driver. The list of possible cars could not include the brown Rover that Peter was driving at the time of his arrest, but Peter had told them about his white Corsair with a black roof. While being questioned
Here we go.
by a detective, it was learned that police had questioned Peter Sutcliffe on many other occasions about the Yorkshire Ripper case. He wore a size 8 shoe, maybe even a 7. Detective Sergeant Des O'Boyle, an officer of the task force and well-versed with the Yorkshire Ripper case, had left for Dewsbury at lunchtime on Saturday the 6th of November to question Sutcliffe himself. During the interview, a blood test revealed that Peter Sutcliffe was of the rare B group. By 6 p.m. that night, while not convinced that Peter Sutcliffe was the Yorkshire Ripper, O'Boyle called into the Millgarth incident room and told a senior officer, Detective Inspector John Boyle, that he would not be clocking off but would stay with the case. At 10 p.m., Sutcliffe was locked in his cell and had gone to bed. When Sergeant Ring returned to Hamerton Road Police Station to begin his 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, he was told that Sutcliffe was still being held at Dewsbury Station and being questioned by Yorkshire Ripper squad officers.
Holy.
Ring would then make a decision that would have a momentous impact on the Yorkshire Ripper investigation. Sutcliffe had left his car to go to the toilet. Maybe he had left something at the
interesting
scene.
about this.
Go ahead.
So when he was in the Dewsbury police station, he was stripped down to be checked, you know?
Yeah.
They stripped him down. So he was wearing an inverted V-neck jumper under his trousers. And
He was wearing an inverted V-neck?
V-neck jumper under his trousers, yeah.
Okay.
And the sleeves had been pulled over his legs, and the V-neck exposed his genital area.
Oh.
So the sleeves were like
He's
padded.
wearing them tidy whities or some shit?
Yeah, so the sleeves were padded down over the knees.
Yeah.
So when he will knelt on over the victim's corpse, he will be protected.
Oh.
And that will be like, yeah, a lot of like sexual implications
Weird.
right
Okay.
there on the outfit.
All
So,
right.
yeah.
I'll read some of these chats real fast. We got here from Noel. He says, what is a healthy amount of sex per week for a 19-year-old? Bro, I mean, whatever you want, man. Your last guest looked like a taller Oliver Tree, musician. That's from Ivan Leal. Thanks, I guess. Are you talking about Johnny Mitchell? Maybe that's who you're talking about, Johnny Mitchell. Someone said, Myron, get Tommy Robinson on the bod. Guys, we already had him on. Check Rumble. Obviously, we couldn't keep it on YouTube, but Tommy Robinson, we did interview him. It's on Rumble, guys. So check it out on Rumble for obvious reasons.
He recalled hearing a clinking noise. Ring returned to the driveway on Melbourne Avenue to have a look around. When he shone his torch on the ground by
Someone said when? It was maybe almost a year ago we had Tommy Robinson on. So yeah, check him out. He's it's on Rumble. We did it on YouTube and Rumble. Shouldn't have done it on YouTube. But yeah, go ahead. It's on Rumble. Just type in Fresh to Fit and Tommy Robinson. Kliegel says Nick F and Rabbi Shmuley and F&F Pod, yay or nay? We'll have to work that one out.
the wall behind the oil storage tank, Ring found the ball-peen hammer and knife that Peter had cautiously left there the night before. A detective superintendent at Sheffield made a call to Detective Superintendent Dick Holland at his home in Elland.
I know some of y'all said we can have Tommy on with Mohammed Hijab. Yeah, I mean, I'd be down to set up that debate in the future. We can make it happen.
Near Huddersfield, Holland quickly suppressed the initial excitement he had felt when he was told that it looked like they may have finally caught the infamous Ripper. If it was their man, he wanted to be sure that they did everything right. Holland issued John Boyle with some instructions on how to proceed with the investigation and requested that he be briefed at 9 a.m. the following morning at Bradford Police Headquarters. At 9:30 on Sunday, the 4th of January, Dick Holland, Sergeant O'Boyle, Detective Chief Inspector George Smith, and Detective Constable Jenny Crawford Brown arrived at number 6 Garden Lane, where Sonia Sutcliffe told them that they could search the house. At 10 a.m. they left, taking with them several tools, which included ball-peen hammers.
Oh boy.
And Sonia Sutcliffe, and returned to Bradford Police Headquarters, where police questioned Sonia extensively for 13 hours. Dick Holland had sent Detective Sergeant Peter Smith of the Regional Crime Squad, who had been involved in the Ripper case longer than almost anyone else, to question Sutcliffe in Dewsbury. Throughout the morning, the investigating officers, without overtly mentioning the Ripper attacks, gleaned as many details of Sutcliffe's movements at the times of the attacks as possible. At the same time, officers behind the scenes were working.
He got a cross on his neck, but he been out here crossing off these ladies from life, man. This dude, man.
Hammer them down.
What the fuck? Yeah, hammering them down.
To gain as much information about Peter Sutcliffe's movements over the past 5 years as they could, including visits to past employers and making other inquiries in the Bradford area. By early Sunday afternoon, Peter was
Oh, you guys said I'm trending on Twitter because of Ethan Decline? Or Eat Then Decline, you mean?
beginning to lose the incredible calmness that he had shown throughout the 48-hour ordeal. The police were now sure that they had the right man. When questioned about his movements on the night of Teresa Sykes' attack on the 5th of November 1980, Sutcliffe told them that he was positive that he had arrived home by 8 p.m. Sonia's recollection was different. She distinctly remembered Peter arriving home at 10 p.m. Although no longer officially in charge of the investigation, George Oldfield was called and told of the news. He quickly made his way to Dewsbury, where he was joined shortly afterward by other senior officers from the task force. At 2:40 p.m., Peter Sutcliffe was told about the discovery of the hammer and knife. As they continued to question
they got him now.
about the attack
They got that boy on the ropes.
Teresa Sykes, it was then that Peter Sutcliffe sat back in his chair and calmly admitted that he was the Yorkshire Ripper.
Oh, got him. Holy, bro.
He admitted it.
Fuck yeah.
The mask had finally been removed, and the most known unknown man was revealed. Over the next 26 hours, Peter Sutcliffe, calmly and with little display of emotion, told police officers the gruesome details of the last 5 years of death and mutilation. The only emotion he showed was when discussing the murder of 16-year-old Jayne McDonald, and when police questioned him regarding the murder of Joan Harrison, which he strongly denied. After his confession, Peter Sutcliffe had one request of George Oldfield. He wanted to be the one to tell his wife, Sonia. She was immediately driven from Bradford Police Headquarters.
Could you imagine telling your wife, hey, baby, for the past 5 years, I've been killing hookers and slashing them in the stomach and hitting them with hammers. Could you imagine?
And masturbating too.
And whacking off to it. Like, bruh, that is one of the biggest L's ever, man. Like, what the fuck?
To the Dewsbury station, where George Oldfield met her before being taken to the interview room to see her husband. Sutfield sat at a small table across from Sonia as he calmly told her the shocking story. When Sonia emerged from the interview room, she appeared to be calm, not revealing what emotions she may have had hidden below the surface. Police would continue to question her about her husband's movements during the past 5 years, since the attack on Anna Rogulskyj in 1975. After Sutcliffe's initial statement had been recorded, a press conference was called. 80 journalists packed the small room in which Ronald Gregory, George Oldfield, and Jim Hobson sat smiling at the cameras while announcing.
The Connecticut kid says, Big Pete really knew how to fan the hammer. Oh my God, bro. Overwatch stream tonight. Let's fucking go. Oh man. I see what you did there, sir.
Finally caught the
I
Yorkshire
see
Ripper.
what you did
The
there.
elation the police felt was reflected by the abandonment of established procedures in dealing with the press in such a situation. Although Sutcliffe's name was not stated, many details not normally revealed, usually omitted to protect a suspect's defense, were revealed to the public. On Monday the 5th of January, when Peter Sutcliffe appeared in the magistrate's court in Dewsbury, the question that had plagued the British public for the past 5 years was answered. Everyone now knew the identity of the Yorkshire Ripper. The question as to why he had killed 13 women and left 7 more so brutalized that they would wish they too had died was answered on Tuesday the 6th of January. Peter Sutcliffe told police that in 1967, at the age of 20, he had heard the voice of God speak to him as he worked at Bingley Cemetery. He would claim that he had first heard that voice while digging a grave.
Here we go. I heard God's voice.
He stated that the voice had led him to a cross-shaped headstone upon which were written the Polish words Hego, Webi, and Echo. It was the same voice that had ordered him to kill prostitutes.
Yeah, okay, bro. See, they always come up with this stupid-ass excuse.
Police officials were satisfied that Peter Sutcliffe was mentally ill, suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, and should be incarcerated in an institution for the insane. Mr. Justice Borum was not as sure as the police, the psychiatrists, the prosecution, and Sutcliffe's defense counsel. They had made their conclusions purely based on what Sutcliffe had told them. It seemed very...
We got over 10K watching on all platforms. Shout out to all you guys, man. Do me a favor, like the video on YouTube if we get that engagement up. Like it on Twitter, too. Share, retweet it, whatever it may be. You know, let's fucking go. Overwatch stream coming in right after. Jeremy says, Myron, why did you let Chris get so fat? Chris got fat on his own, bro.
very likely that Sutcliffe could be lying. Sutcliffe had been overheard telling his wife that he might be able to reduce his sentence to as little as 10 years if he could convince everyone that he was mad. Borum informed the Attorney General,
And that is probably why he said, oh, bro, I went to a gravestone and it told me to do it.
Sir Michael Havers, of his decision that Peter Sutcliffe should go to trial before a jury of 12 members of the public. They would decide whether Peter Sutcliffe was mad or guilty of the crime of murder. The trial would last 14 days,
Yeah,
and
he
it
was
would take the 6 men and 6
diagnosed
women of the
Where do you get that?
He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Okay.
So he was diagnosed when he was like a young child, and he will hear voices. He will say that he will hear God telling him to do it
Yeah, man.
because hosts were like
Jury, 6
unholy.
Because hosts were unholy?
Yeah.
to
This
make
guy.
their decision. As the deliberations of any jury in a murder case, there was much discussion. But unlike in any other case, this jury did not discuss whether or not Peter William Sutcliffe had committed the crime of murder. It was the responsibility of this jury to determine the true mental state of Peter Sutcliffe. The prosecution had put before them the possibility that Sutcliffe had been lying when he told police about the voice of God, which had ordered him to kill. The defense, with the help of many psychiatrists, had attempted to prove that the story was true.
Guys, 837 likes, man. Just another one, roughly 130, and we're going to be at 1,000.
On Friday, the 22nd of May, 1981, Peter Sutcliffe stood before the jury as the jury foreman declared the decision that Peter William Sutcliffe was guilty of 13 counts of murder.
God damn.
10 of these 12 men and women believed that Peter William Sutcliffe was not insane, but was an evil and sadistic murderer.
There we go.
5
W
years
jury.
of terror and pain for so many women, their parents, relatives, friends, and their 36 children came to a sudden end when Peter William Sutcliffe, the notorious Yorkshire Ripper, was led away from the dock, showing
Sorry, 160 likes. My math sucks. You guys like it?
no emotion, to begin
too.
his sentence of life imprisonment. Justice appeared to be served, but the scars would never heal for those who had survived the carnage wrought by the hand of one man. In December 2015, Sutcliffe was assessed as being no longer mentally ill. In August 2016, a medical tribunal ruled that he no longer required clinical treatment for his mental condition and could be
shit.
returned to prison.
Oh,
Sutcliffe was reported to have been transferred from Broadmoor to HM Prison Frankland in Durham, County Durham, in August 2016. Sutcliffe died at University Hospital of North Durham, aged 74, on the 13th of November 2020, after having previously returned to HMP Frankland following treatment for suspected heart attack at the same hospital 2 weeks prior.
he died right before the pandemic.
He had many
Yeah.
underlying health problems, including diabetes, and had refused
Or no, he
treatment
died during the pandemic, excuse me.
And
for
he had been
COVID-19.
in a
private
psychiatric
funeral ceremony
institution
was held.
for 30 years until he got into a prison
Gotcha.
in
And Sutcliffe
Took
2016.
it easy on him.
Body was cremated.
Bam. All right. That is the Yorkshire Killer, guys. I encourage you guys to also check out the documentary on it on Netflix, man. It's pretty good. It's a little bit longer. It's multiple episodes, but I liked it. It was pretty damn good. Let's see here if there's any chats that I missed.
Somebody said, Markov said, will Angie stay loyal to Myron if he committed a crime? What do you mean, man? He commits crimes every day going out with those clothes. I'm still loyal to him.
With the clothes? So funny. Guys, we will, I think that's it right there, man. Like the video, guys, on YouTube, please. Go ahead and check out the channel, Fed Reacts on YouTube. We're also on Rumble as well, rumble.com/FedReacts, YouTube, Fed Reacts, search that.
On YouTube, on Instagram too.
Yes, on Instagram as well. Twitter, we got 7,000 live, 3,000 over here, almost 4,000 over here, and then 1,000 on YouTube. So it's split. It is what it is. That's fine, guys. You know, reach more people. Hopefully you guys like this true crime stuff. I enjoy it. We're going to go to 2 episodes in a few weeks, maybe by the spring or summertime. And yeah, guys, like the video, man. Subscribe to the channel. I will be starting up an Overwatch stream here probably, what time is it? It is right now.
12, sorry.
It's 12 o'clock. It's midnight. Oh, shit. You know what that means. It's midnight, a.k.a. that means it is high noon, my friends. So we're going to be going live here in about 20 minutes. Do you have something, Angie?
Okay, I'm going to order food.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep continuing doing the lives on Instagram. So, yeah, stay tuned on the Instagram of Fed Reacts.
Boom.
Fed Reacts. Yeah.
So the grind continues, guys. I will be live on Overwatch. Give me about 20 minutes. I got to set up the stream and everything else like that. Yeah, I think we're good. Shout out to Bills for setting it up. And shout out to Bills also for letting me borrow his account because...
You're going to get banned, Bills, just so you know.
I'll try not to swear that much, Bills. But yeah, my main account got banned. Guys, it got suspended actually for 2 weeks. You know it's bad when they send you a message and they say, hey, you got to check your email. We suspended your account. You got to check your email. Why? I was like, God damn.
I can imagine your... man, I would have killed to see your reaction.
Yeah, I was pissed. I was mad as hell. I was like, what the fuck, man?
For no reason.
Bullshit, man. These guys, man, they hating. And I just hit Diamond 2 on there. So I'm getting my mojo back, man. But anyway, we'll catch you guys on the next episode. I'll be back here in a little bit. Give me about 20, 30 minutes, guys. And we'll be back on Overwatch. Love you, ninjas. Like the video on YouTube, and I'll be back. Stay tuned. I'm gonna be streaming it on Rumble, by the way, guys. Rumble and Twitter. I won't be doing it on YouTube for obvious reasons. So, yeah, we're gonna go hard in the paint, man. We'll catch you guys in a bit. Peace. Love y'all. I'm a special agent with Homeland Security Investigations, okay, guys? HSI.
This is what Fed Reacts covers.
Defender Jeffrey Williams, an associate of YSL, did commit the felony.
So here's what 6ix9ine actually got.
Racketeer conspiracy. This attack shifted the whole U.S. government.
This guy got arrested for espionage.